Okay, I'm here. Hello, everybody. Hey, Crunchy, Strange Matter, aka Neo. How are you? It's still gonna take me a moment to get used to saying the name. How are you? Nush Arts. Hello, hello. Hope you're doing well today. Vana, Skittle, Ellie Friend, welcome. Hope everyone's doing good. Today's weird. So today is a holiday in the U.S. I believe it's Memorial Day. I could be wrong on the name. Um, But because of that, my work is moved. Normally, I work on Monday mornings, but I didn't work this morning. Instead, I work tomorrow morning, which means I have to like go to bed right after stream, which is weird. So the whole thing is very bizarre, and it's gonna throw my week off. I know it. I'm just predicting this confusion of like me forgetting to go into work or something stupid. No, I don't think that'll happen. But it's just yeah, it's gonna throw my day off. But anyway, how is everyone? You're doing perfect? Nice. I'm doing well. Today's a good day. I've been binge watching a bunch of sleep confusion. Yeah, pretty much. I've been binge watching a bunch of perspective videos. That guy Steven Travers, I don't know. I feel like he's not new on YouTube. Like he has a pretty good sized YouTube channels, but I feel like his channel's sort of blowing up lately because he's posting a ton of videos. And he does a lot of like stuff on. He has a lot of perspective videos, and he talks a lot about perspective, and he mostly draws from reference, and he made a one of the so I feel like I didn't necessarily learn anything new from his perspective videos because I feel like it's all kind of the same stuff, but he had a really interesting insight, which was pretty much all of the perspective videos out there are kind of geared towards architects, like people designing a singular object or a single building. And he's very much geared towards observational drawing, which is not what I do, right? I'm much more from imagination. I'm probably closer to the architect side of things than what he's doing, but I feel like making that point, there are differences in how you would teach perspective, and I think a lot of people would benefit from that. You love when Joe starts a sentence like 10 times? Yeah, that happens. I sometimes just start repeating myself. I get caught in a loop. It's like a computer glitching out or something. Haven't been able to watch a stream in a while. Nice to be here. Ah, Ethodynamic. Glad you're here. Hope you're doing well. So anyway, because perspective's on my mind, I'm probably going to be doing a bunch of perspective stuff today. I mean, I always draw in perspective, but I'm probably going to be doing more architecture stuff and sort of um what do you call it? Yeah, just architecture basically. Instead of just naturalistic environments, I'm going to be focusing more on perspective-y things that require perspective. So that's probably what I'm going to do today. This was last stream's painting. This looked like something from Star Wars. I did Google it after stream, but yeah. Stuttering is more common than y'all think. I mean, stuttering's totally common. I don't even know if it's stuttering. It's more of me stopping my sentence mid thought because of another thought, and then I start over again. And it's like I'm trying to find the words that catch up with what my brain is thinking, but then my brain goes somewhere else, and then I have to go back, and then I just keep on interrupting myself. So I don't know if it's stuttering. I don't think what I'm doing is stuttering. It's more of a inability to form sentences because I'm not sure where they're gonna go. So I start talking and I don't know what I'm gonna say, and then I have to rethink it, and then before I get to the end of the sentence, I think of a better way to say it. So then I start over, and it's sort of it's hard. It's something that I actually really enjoy thinking about, which is like speech and presentation and all that kind of thing. There's oftentimes just a lot going on in my head, especially if I'm trying to paint and talk and read it all at the same time. I'm I also am aware of how words might come off a little bit, even though I'm probably bad at it. And so I am trying to be careful with the word choice and all that. talking too fast with too much to say, or too little to say, and you're just trying to fill the space. No, I don't think that's what it is. I don't know. I don't want to say I have too much to say. That's not true. I do repeat myself a lot, but it's more that I try to say things in slightly different ways that are slightly new. So there's a little bit of thinking of like, oh, well, what's the right way to say this? Anyway, I don't want to start a logopedic discussion. It's interesting, but trustworthy sources are important, and Twitch is not one. If you care, I suggest you research it. Okay, a logopedic, I don't know what that means. I don't know that word. That's a big word. My brain doesn't think fast enough to keep up with your mouth, so my mouth just flubs the words and overtakes me. Yeah, I think that's sometimes what it is too, Skittle, where I'm just not thinking. It's like I'm brain farting in the middle of a sentence. But then other times it's the opposite, where I have a lot of ideas and I can only pick a few things. So it really depends. And every rant ends with anyway, while going down with your voice. That's it. Well, anyway, that's art. But anyway, yeah, I guess it kind of does. But anyway, yeah, you're right. It does. I do that, don't I? The science that studies speech defects and their treatment. I see. It's a good word. Yeah, I have a coworker who has a pretty. I guess you'd call it a. I don't. I guess he stutters quite heavily. I don't want to say he has a stuttering problem because I don't really think it's a problem. But he has like an actual stutter. Like when I think of stutter, or when I think of the layperson thinking of stutter, I think that's what I would think of. And yeah, I feel like that's not what I do. Mine's a very different thing. It might still be technically classified as stuttering. I don't know. But interesting, nonetheless. All right, let's paint. Also, these were from last stream, so I'm going to delete them all. Deleted. I love the combo of gray and green. Yeah, it's not too bad. I do think it's pretty neat. It's definitely was something that was a little unusual. Maybe I'll keep it there because it is unusual. Maybe I'll come back to it. Maybe not. We'll see. But it's nice to start out with something on screen, I think. Whoa, that's not what I meant to do. What just happened? Hold on. Copy, paste. There we go. There we go. All right, one thumbnail down. Also, we have more boxes, but I'm going to leave the 6 for now. Okie dokie. Perspective-y stuff. Joe trying to cheat the system after not drawing for 30 minutes last stream. Pretty much. Yep, that's right on point. Also, my glasses are a mess. 1 second. I have to clean my glasses. I'm looking through, like, a messy windshield. Hold on, where's my little... I have my, 5-minute thumbnail sketch. Alright, hold on, I gotta spray my glasses and wipe them off, because they are a disaster. Okay, hold on, I can't see. I cannot see, I have to squint to see what's happening in chat. And I can see who's typing, like I can see Vana said something, and I can see Neo said something, but I can't actually read it right now, because my glasses are off. But I can tell from the length of the name and the color. If there's ever been an argument for why color and name is an important factor, I can tell who's typing, but I have no idea what they're saying. All right, now I can see. There's different ways of stuttering. Again, trustworthy sources are important. Yeah, no, I'm sure there are different technical classifications. I was just talking in layman's terms. Yeah, we're not getting into that. I mean, that's like arguing everything's perspective because you're drawing from a perspective, and perspective is viewpoint. But when I say things like perspective, I'm talking about like linear perspective. Even though obviously the way that every choice that you make is all a matter of perspective. So to me, a lot of things are, there's a difference between like a technical definitions and layman definitions. And when I say perspective, I just mean linear perspective, you know. But yeah, so there's always going to be differences in word choices and what people mean. mean, it's kind of like when people talk about theories, right? There's like three different ways that people talk about the word theory. One can be more of a body of evidence in like the scientific way. One can just be I have an idea, which is almost synonymous with I have a hypothesis, but nobody ever would say that. Um, and yeah, and then there's another version. But anyway, there's so yeah, I feel like there's different ways to say the same words, but in totally different contexts. But anyway, I don't know where I'm going with this. I'm gonna draw. Let me bring up the timer, and then we'll do a warm up 5 minute thumbnail sketch. Anyway, did I say it again? Oh dang, this is gonna bug me. Now that you're calling me out on this, this is going to bug me. I'm going to get rid of me saying that. I'm gonna find new ways to say that. Anywho, no kidding. I'm not gonna switch to anywho. Anyhow? No. It's like all the same thing. This I remember I think it was my dad growing up, he had a friend who would say anyhow, and it always weirded me out because I always had heard anyway or people saying anywho if they're being silly, but anyhow somehow just confused me and it broke my brain. So I don't think I'm gonna say that, but any why? Yeah, exactly. Anyhow makes about as much sense as any why. Any why? Any what? Any whomst? Exactly. Okay. Countdown timer. Turn that on. There we go. Any what? Okay. Time to paint. Let's turn on the timer. Gonna do the thing. Clicking start right now. Okay, I am gonna do some green and some blue, maybe some yellows. Oh, I know. Let's do like a gradient of yellow grays because I haven't done that in a while. Maybe we'll even get into the greens or something. Maybe we'll jump over to the blues, blue grays, and then the greens can be mixed in there. Okay, I like these colors are okay. These are very naturalistic looking colors. Maybe I don't like that. I don't know. We'll see. We will see. What do I want to paint? I feel like oh yeah, I did want to paint architecture. I don't know if I can do that in 5 minutes though. We'll see. Any what? I still think I want to say any what. But yeah, how is everyone doing? How's everyone's Mondays or week starting off? Anyone doing any arting? And what sort of arting? Ooh, okay, hold on. I have an idea. What if I take like a bright yellow in here? I don't feel like I paint with bright yellows a lot. And maybe some bright yellows up here too. I'm working on a little fan art. Oh, nice. Do you want to? Do you have anything you can share? I would totally like to see it. I would love to see what you're working on. Drawing boats. Ooh, boats. Boats are nice. I like boats. I feel like boats are surprisingly difficult because they have curved perspective, and or they have it's curved objects in perspective, and I feel like that is a hard thing to keep super consistent. Also, I've realized I think in 3 years of Twitch, I don't think I've ran into a single person who loves drawing cars or who has drawn a lot of cars. I feel like cars are that thing where nobody draws them, or at least nobody draws a lot of them. Like it's nobody's thing, right? There are like the mech people, there are the monster people, there's the the portraits, there's the environment people. There's like no car people, like just cars. I feel like I see like none of those, but when I was a kid, I actually would draw cars. That was one of my favorite things to try and draw. They certainly were difficult, and all of my cars turned out terribly. Oh, there very much are car artists. Oh, there absolutely are. I'm not saying there aren't. I'm just saying I don't think I ran into any on Twitch. I don't think I've seen any on Twitch. I don't think anyone has come into stream that has been purely a car artist. I know they're out there. I mean, a lot of hard surface designer people are car people. uh, whether you're doing like mech artists or cars or any other hard surface stuff. Yeah, probably. Yeah. They're out there lurking, waiting in their cars, probably. Yeah, they're probably too busy working on cars and actually doing real life stuff and not just sitting here. No, I don't know. Something. But yeah, it's weird. I just feel like that demographic is not, or that group of cohort of people don't, and I feel like I just don't see them on Twitch. I feel like I've run into pretty much people who have drawn everything. And like I do think a lot of people start drawing cars. I mean, like I said, I started out drawing cars. That was one of my, observational drawing. One of my first observational drawing things was cars. I always enjoyed drawing cars, and I mean, they look terrible because I didn't know perspective. I mean, I think probably because they're just hard, honestly. I've run a 3D artist to do car sketch on Twitch. Yeah, yeah, yeah. There's actually we just got rated by Viper something Viper maybe. I don't know their name. I'm bad at remembering names. I would know it if I saw them in chat. But they do cars. They do a lot of 3D stuff, but they do a lot of renders. They're not technically doing the modeling, and they're not. Um, yeah, they're doing 3D stuff with cars, but a lot of textures and stuff. Yeah, Disney vibe exactly. They do a lot of cart stuff, but that's almost not even the same though. How can I share something? If you have, there's a few ways. You can join Discord, and you can drop a link into the art chat, or you could just drop a link directly in chat. If you have an Instagram link or something, or a DeviantArt link, or an ArtStation link, if you want to share something, you can just link directly to the source. Also Discord. We do have a Discord. If you make your way to the art channel, you can drop. Oh yeah, it's not in there. So I didn't want my Discord link public, which it might actually be. I don't know. There may be a link somewhere, but I didn't really want a link somewhere because I do feel like it's extremely easy for bots and stuff to just kind of comb the internet and find links and join it and be spammy and annoying. And I think it's best to not have Discord links just sitting there. I don't know if that actually is a thing. It's probably just, I'm sure there's ways around it anyway. But I mean, similarly, I think you could probably just have bots that go and read chats from VODs or something and find it. So I'm sure it's just as easy to find it that way, but slightly different process, I guess. So yeah, I don't know. I try to use the commands. Anyway, there's a 5-minute thumbnail. As I was talking and painting, I did some painting. It's just kind of a mountainy area. I feel like we can slap it with some color dodge though, and or something. Let's see. Anyway, oh no, did I play it again? Ah, crap! This is gonna be such a hard habit to break. Oh my goodness. I appreciate you pointing that out though. It actually is nice because it's one of those things where I don't think about it. And so it's hard to change your behavior if you're not aware of your behavior. Silly me, I was already on the server. No worries. You probably just had it muted and tucked away in a corner where it would be forgotten, because that's typically what happens with Discord servers. I feel like that's extremely common. Whole chat is gonna consist of anyway if we are to a point where every anyway you say. Wait, to point out every, yeah, exactly. We're gonna need a command. Yeah. We're gonna need a anyway command which counts the anyways. True, we might. You might have to do that. Like 90% of my Discord server when I read. Anyway command that attaches to a water spray bottle. Oh my god, that would be horrible. That would be pretty funny if I used a webcam though. I don't know how you would do that, but that isn't actually a good idea. I don't mean like actually as in normally you have terrible ideas. I just mean I feel like if somebody has if somebody streams with a webcam and you have a habit of saying certain things, you should absolutely put a spray bottle. Like that is such a good stream idea. Why it's bad to use fill words though? What are you saying? Are you saying why is it or why is it bad to use fill words though? It's not. But to always use the same word predictably in the same way, I feel like comes off as uninteresting and not yeah. Why is it? Yeah, it's not. It's not bad to use fill words. It can be. It can be disruptive and it can be a way to break the like the flow of the speech. I mean, I don't think it always is. Fill words are okay. I mean, transition words are great, like however and again anyway is fine. Um, but it absolutely can be. I rather feel like it comes off as random habit. Yeah, exactly. It comes off as a random habit, and I think it's good to not have some of those. I don't know. I think it's from just a like a personal improvement standpoint. I think trying to identify things that aren't intentional and decide what and how you want to sound and slowly craft your speech into that is a smart way of doing it. Um, I don't think it's necessarily bad, but when things are just habit and you've never thought about it, and you're like, is this the way that I actually want to speak? And then you're like, maybe not. Like maybe there's better ways to do it, or maybe there's ways that suit my needs better in this environment. And it just makes sense to sort of try to fix those. I don't know. It's the same thing with like enthusiasm on stream, right? If maybe you're someone who's very drony when you talk, just naturally. Maybe you didn't choose that. But if you're streaming, it makes sense to try and not come off sounding like you're kind of just droning on and like it's not I don't know, it's not a as an appealing way to for me anyway to speak. It doesn't mean it's bad. It's just if you didn't decide to do that on your own and you have the option of deciding how to speak, it makes sense to practice that. I think it was Yuki who was I don't know anything about this, so I don't know what is right or wrong, but there's the concept of changing doing vocal exercise and potentially I don't know if I don't know anything about this, so I'm not speaking fact here. I'm just the idea is the thing I'm getting at. But by doing vocal exercise, in theory, I guess you can change the natural, not the natural pitch of your voice, but like the way you pronounce words to come off higher pitched or lower pitched just by changing your speech patterns. I don't know anything about that, but it's kind of along the lines of that where you're sort of just cutting out you're forming habits to present and communicate differently. I don't know. I think it's a fascinating topic and yeah, I don't know. I like that stuff. Okay, back to painting. I avoided the anyway. That's actually one I know a lot about. Okay, yeah, I don't know anything about that one, but it sounds like it would be a thing that would work. And while I have no intention of doing specifically that, it seems interesting. Ellie friend, what? Question mark, question mark, question mark. Heat from fire. What's the hashtag? Okay. I was waiting for the anyway and got disappointed. I caught myself. I did good. Maybe not. Okay. Painting stuff. Colors. What do I oh no, I'm saving. Okay. Let's paint with some reds. He's evolving. Common vocal exercises for trans folks. Yeah. I think that was the context of it. He's become too powerful. I don't know about that. I don't I don't know about becoming too powerful. But I am trying to find some fun colors to paint with for something. I think practicing different accents can help. Yeah, I could see that too. Anyway, I'm not actually. I just said anyway again. Crap. I'm not actually interested in doing that specific thing. I just was using that as an example of like a conscious habit where you're changing the way you talk. I mean, honestly, this is the same with like an on-air presentation, right? You try to cut out filler words, or if you try to have a thought, you try to say it as concisely and as clearly as possible, right? If there's a word that you're using over and over and it sounds repetitive and people are going to notice it. It's kind of like when you read a book, right? And you hear an author use like some sort of, their hands were as rough as sandpaper. Okay, whatever. That's a way to describe someone's hands. But then you hear them say it like three other times in the book and you're like, "Oh my god, they keep repeating the same, they only have like their go-to thing." Right? Everybody's heard that, right? When you're reading a book and the author uses the same way to describe something and it's like a kind of a maybe that wasn't that creative, but like they'll have a creative thing, but it's like they really like it because they keep going back to it. That's kind of what it sounds like. It's like it's fine to use it a few times, but if it starts jumping out at you, it's pulling your attention away from the story, and now you're thinking about, oh wow, this author really likes this word choice, right? And it has nothing to do with the message or the book or the story. It pulled you out because you noticed the pattern. That's kind of how I think of those things on stream. If people are like, you always say the word anyway, it's like, okay, well clearly now you're more focused on what I'm saying or how I'm saying what I'm saying than the actual content. Anyway, that is me when writing social media captions. I always write the same and I am super ashamed. Yeah. Same. I also don't care about social media that much to change. But yeah, I mean, it happens everywhere in life, right? I mean, this is essentially just a speech habit, but you could argue any habit, right? It could even be a painting habit. Plus, oh crap, did I say anyway? I don't even know. Yeah, the problem with an anyway counter would be that I wouldn't even know if I said it, so you guys could just pretend that I said it anyway, and I would believe you because I say it so automatically that I wouldn't have any way to right. It's not like color dodge, for example. When you guys are like color dodge command, and I'm like, okay, well obviously I know I used color dodge. I can just look at the canvas, right? I have a history, I can see what I've done and I will know. But with anyway, I will never have known. Also, we would have to differentiate between an actual anyway and me saying the word as an example, like right now, right? Like if I say the word anyway too much, that would not add to the counter. But if I were to say anyway, let's get back to drawing, that would, right? You could start being more conscious about it if you want that. I mean, that was literally what we were talking about. The whole point of the conversation, right? I think was me trying to be more conscious about word choice, and I think that's what I was talking about. Yeah, that's precisely the thing. But it's hard. Yeah. Anyway, back to the anyways. Exactly. But why would we troll you? Why wouldn't you troll me? This is Twitch. Why wouldn't people troll? People would absolutely troll. Are you kidding? We're on the internet. Are you new? We would absolutely troll. I would troll people if I knew that I could get away with it. I would totally troll people. Let's gaslight them. Exactly. It would happen eventually. I mean, maybe you wouldn't, and that's fair. That if you don't want to do that's fair. Gaslight, girl, boss, gatekeep. I don't need. I know what those words mean, but not in that order. I think my niece introduced me to the term girl boss or girl. Yeah, it's funny. Uh, the whole trend or whatever. I don't know. It's funny. Okay. I don't think I'm leveling today. You're not leveling? Leveling. Because it's rude? I mean, it can be. I don't know. I don't think it's necessary. It depends on the environment, I think. What behavior is rude. Maybe this is where I have a unique opinion on this because I think I have I don't I don't think there's like objectively rude behavior. Not necessarily. I think if in some streams trolling the streamer is the status quo and that is sort of the environment they've created and they encourage it in some ways and they know it's content and they know chat likes it so they keep doing it and it's sort of expected and it's good. But then there's times where something's serious and then the trolling is unwelcome because it breaks the vibe of the stream. So it depends. I just got here and it is necessary. You think trolling the streamer is necessary? Yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's necessary. I think trolling the streamer or playing with them, I mean, I don't think it's necessary. I think especially if you're like a totally new viewer, I think you should chill out here for a bit and get the vibe of the stream. The target decides what counts as rude. Yeah, I think that's fair. I think that's fair. I mean, maybe there's exceptions to that, but I think I, in general, would agree with that. I mean, ultimately, this is my stream, and if there's something that I really don't like, I technically have the power to stop it, right? Even if I don't, because of maybe fear of losing a viewer or something, like it's still I still have that power, and not yeah. I'm new here, and I should be do my best to get the vibe of the stream. Yeah, I mean, normally we're not that trolly of a stream, to be honest. So I could understand someone thinking that that wouldn't be okay. Um, I also think it depends on how you troll. There's definitely inappropriate ways to troll, and definitely appropriate ways to troll. Yarp, thank you for the follow. How are you, by the way? And welcome in. Yeah, just like when you are joining a new group of people, you don't just butt in and start talking first, but observe. Yeah, and you certainly don't like jump out with like crude humor if you're not even sure what they're sort of like what's acceptable. I think there's elements of different stuff. Do we get silly here sometimes, goof even? Yeah, we do, but I mean it's pretty family friendly. Like so, crude I think is typically not the vibe. I mean I don't really like personally. I don't care. Like it's not that the humor itself offends me, but I do try to keep stream sort of welcoming for everyone because I tend to do a lot of, I guess you could say educational stuff, but more trying to explain process or my process and the way I think about things with art. It tends to be pretty art focused and rant focused with on art topics or just any topic really. Do you like the red in this one? I'm not sure where this one's going. I'm liking it. I think I want some large structures. We're gonna paint. Maybe we'll get a cool tone in here. Some coolness. Like light. Not that blue. I'm kind of graying down some of these reds in here. It does feel like a very chill class. Very cool teacher. Oh no. I remember someone, oh, who was it? It might have been me or somebody was like, "What is the vibe of this?" And someone was like, "It's like a class." And they're like, "Oh no!" Like, never in the history of anything has been like, you know what's a really cool place to be in class. You know, it's like that's not that's I don't know, but I don't mind sort of a bit of that. Anyway, crap. Oh my goodness. It's gonna happen. It's unavoidable at this point. I'm just gonna lean into it. I'm not even gonna care anymore. Not for now. Maybe I'll try to worry about my word choices later. Okay, I'm gonna put some orange. Embrace the anyway. Yeah, I have to. It's It's unavoidable at this point. I mean, it's not ultimately, but if I do like the first 20 minutes of stream where I'm very conscious of it, I have a hunch I'll be able to break the habit over the course of a few weeks. But there's definitely going to be times where I slip up during stream because I can't possibly focus purely on that. Like there's too many other things going on. It's already hard enough to focus on this when, on stream. So yeah, right now I'm trying to just sketch out some shapes, maybe make this look tall by putting some contours around it, something like that. Like there are classes people pay for on purpose. Yeah, but I mean, I will pay for classes and stuff on purpose, but it doesn't mean I love being in class, right? I think the idea of what you'll pay for doesn't mean that you genuinely enjoy. I mean, I don't think enjoyment and what you pay for is always overlapping, right? Sometimes you have a different desire, right? You want to learn something, or you feel like something is worth supporting, or I mean, this is the same way of people will vote against things that will, for example, you might be a somebody who drives a lot, right, in your vehicle, and you vote to pay more for for like carbon tax or something, right? So it's like you're actively it's like, oh, but why would you do that? You drive a lot. It's like, yeah, I can still believe one thing, and so I don't think you have I don't think where you put your money is necessarily a good indicator of that. Just as a principle, I think there's lots of reasons you would put your money against things that you enjoy or things that would make your life more hard because you can still believe in the greater good kind of and incentives, and you can know that something is, it's kind of like people who pay for gym memberships, right? It's not because they genuinely love exercising, it's because they want to exercise more, right? It's not because they like it, it's they feel they should, or some people like it, sure, probably the people who use their gym memberships like it. But I do feel like anyway, I think that's an interesting topic on its own. We're almost switching into the topic of metrics, which I think is super relevant to artists, which is using certain indicators like whether people pay for stuff or Instagram likes to judge how good your art is, and whether the metric meets the actual intent that you're trying, like whether it's actually measuring the thing you think it's measuring. I feel like that is a fascinating topic. Working out becomes kind of addictive. Yeah, it can. Or you could be addicted to the progress, right? I mean, this is my way, even with art, right? I did art a lot without really enjoying it at the start because I liked the learning and the progress I was making. Not because I loved putting paint on canvas, or I loved sitting down and spending a long time to make a painting that I wasn't happy with at the end. I didn't love that. I liked knowing that I was improving. Eventually it shifted, and now I actually like painting. But it wasn't really always that way. Like, I liked the idea of painting at the start, but actually painting was almost torturous because I wasn't any good. And I cared a lot about getting better. And then I started learning. I'm like, oh, this is actually a lot of fun to see that I'm making progress and to know that this thing that I didn't think I could learn all my life, now I can learn. You could definitely hear Joe trying to be positive about this, but realize halfway through the sentence that working out is not so great, and I agree. I mean, I don't like working out. I'll just say it. I think it's not great, but I also think everybody should work out, right? Working out is I mean, look, when I say I think everybody should work out, I'm not saying I want to legislate it. I'm just saying from like a personal level, I think people should be self-motivated to want to work out, right? Because it's a healthy thing to do, right? Not because like you should do it because it's the law, but like you should be like, I should work out, right? Just like I think everybody should eat healthy. Like, yes, eating healthy is good. Does that mean I always eat healthy? No. I would support that, like as a you don't got yeah, you don't have to become a bodybuilder. You're just use muscles that maybe you don't use all the time, and keep doing things enough. Anyway, you get my point. Yeah, that kind of thing. Like there's a lots of things I think people should do that I don't do. I'm not claiming I'm perfect here. Crap, did I say it again? +4. Okay. I'm gonna let me add a counter. Hold on. Let me do this right now. Let's go to dashboard. Oh, do I remember how to add this? Log in with Twitch. Let's see. Okay. I'm gonna copy timer. So let me go to my timer. So let's see. Cloudbot. Commands. Color dodge. Let's see how I made the command for color dodge. What is the command for it? Okay. Add command. Anyway. Response. Slash me. Color dodges. Nope. Anyways. Anyway counter. Anyway. Let's see if this works. Exclamation mark anyway. Anyway, well, get it up to 5. Anyway, I don't know how to set it. Anyway, we're at 4. Okay, there we go. Now we're caught up to the 4 anyway. Okay, we have our counter. There we go. Perfect. All right. There we go. Okay. Now time for also. So do we always have to give the command? No, only if I. No, you don't. What do you mean? Do you always have to? No, you don't always have to give the command. I mean, I'm not going to because I'll forget and I don't want to be pulled out of stream to do that. Plus, I don't even notice when I say the word. But yeah, if you hear me say it and you want to add a counter, you can say it. If I say the word anyway, you don't add the counter, right? It's only if I say it in the context of a transition from one, from like ranting to non-ranting. Saying the word itself, like it's not like a bad word where if the word itself is so bad that just the mentioning of the word, like it's not like that. Like there's a difference between describing the word anyway and saying it in the sentence. Like right? Like there's differences, and yeah, it's only the latter if I use it as an actual transition, right? Okay, so back to painting. Uh, let's do some architecture stuff. We'll do some 2-point perspective-y things. We gotta establish rules for anyway here. I love it. This is why I'm here for this exact fun stuff like this. No. I'm glad. I mean, it's stupid, but it's funny. I think it's fun to try and recognize things in yourself that you do that maybe you don't know you do. And we've had this discussion before with like when you travel to like either a friend's house or a different country, and for the first time you realize that you do things in a different way than they do, and it like kind of pulls you out of your sort of your bubble, and you're like, oh my, it kind of puts the mirror back to you, and you're like, holy crap, there's this thing that can be done differently. Like I always thought you had to do it, I thought everybody did it this way, and you just didn't know. right? It's like you go over to a friend's house and you realize they pour their milk in before they add their cereal, and you're like, this is insane. Who pours the milk in first? But maybe some people do, and that's just the way they do it, and that's all they know because they've never been taught the right way. Uh, Criminal. Seriously, that would be criminal. I specifically picked an example that was criminal because I think that one's not controversial. If it is, you have a problem and need help. That they get soggy. I mean, what do you mean? They're gonna get soggy anyway. Are are you claiming you know of a secret way to add milk to cereal without it getting soggy? Is this is this what I'm picking up? That can't be right. Are you taking half an hour to eat them? Yeah, I'm not sure what's going on. Something more interesting you can talk to anyone about how they see stuff. How do you see the calendar months? I see them linear, but some see them in a circle or wait, what? What do you mean? How do you see them? Wait, I don't even know what that means. Hold up. How do you see the calendar months? Do you see them linear, but some see? I mean, yeah, what? In your brain, how do you imagine them as you think about them? I mean, I guess I think of them linear, but like if you were to say, "Oh, you see them as a circle," you're like, "Oh yeah, of course, they do loop back around on each other." But I don't really picture it. Now I'm trying to imagine what a zigzag would look like. Like only this month is big. Yeah, I mean, I don't really. Yeah, I don't know. I mean, I don't know how you answer. I don't. Yeah, I don't know what my answer to that is. That's a weird question. I think it's more telling that you think about this. How do you see the calendar months? Okay, this we're gonna be seeing an understudy here. Uh, I don't visualize. Yeah, I don't visualize the calendar months like that. I that's not something. And we've actually brought up visualization on stream before. I don't visualize stuff in that way. Like I can, but I don't. It's like I forget to visualize. I mean, if I look at a calendar, right, their pages, I that's an interesting one. Okay, what do I want to do here? Okay, so if we're looking up, our eye line is down here. This is where our eyes are. I'm just gonna make a dashed line here. So our eyes are here. We have like towers and stuff back here. Down here, we might maybe somewhere over here is gonna be the thing. Maybe over here. Wait, that was over here, right? Yeah, right here. So I'm kind of doing some perspective-y stuff. Down here. Down here. This doesn't need to be like that because it can be a circle. Some other lines there. I'm definitely doing more actual drawing right now. Just trying to quickly sketch in shapes. Something like that. Maybe we have some other shapes coming down here. Something like that. Even better, how do you visualize perspective? Oh gosh. I don't know. I mean, it depends. I definitely think of it as I mean, I just think it's funny. I don't think of yeah, see, I don't. Those questions like that are weird because I don't think it. Yeah, that's the thing. Like, what do you? Oh gosh, I don't. But I mean, so for example, I guess I very much when I draw a line. For example, if I draw two parallel lines, I think of them as parallel, right? I don't see these lines and think, oh, one is going towards this point, right, and the other is going towards this point, right? I've sort of in some ways I've sort of trained myself to think of these as parallel, right? These are not parallel lines, right? If I were to ask a mathematician and said, "Are these parallel?" and they'd be like, "Absolutely not, because they intersect," right? But no, for me, these are parallel, given that I've decided that I'm drawing a scene from up here. Now, if I'm drawing a scene where my perspective is up here, or sorry, my eyes are up here, these could still be parallel, right? They would just have to be sloped downward, right? Because if they were sloped upward, that you know, this would be if this was a flat ground plane. But if this were a hill, right, these absolutely could, right? This could then curve back up, right? So yeah, these could be a, right, this could be a hill. So these two lines could still be parallel, even if, right, and this would be a hill. So this could absolutely still be parallel. So like if I want to draw two lines as parallel, to me, I'll just see them as parallel. And then I'll have to make the appropriate adjustments, you know, where my eye line is, or if it's downhill or uphill or whatever. And I think that's the thing that's confusing, because I think if you were to ask someone, you know, are these lines parallel? Some people might say, well, yes, if the horizon's up here, but I don't think you'd get a lot of people saying they're parallel even if your eye level's up here, right? But they still could be. So a lot of times it's the intent, and I think this is why tunnel vision in drawing can happen, right? Because you tell yourself one thing, but then you don't make the appropriate corrections to match it. So like if I'm saying these are parallel, and then I start drawing, you know, my eye line up here, and then everything else is going up this way, right? So I have like, you know, train tracks and boxes and various things. That's not a good, you know, you get the idea, right? You have to, yeah, suddenly this is not going to look parallel because it doesn't fit the same perspective, right? It's weird, right? This does not look like a parallel box, given that these are parallel, right? So if all of these are parallel, I'm probably not going to draw this very well, right? This does not look parallel. This looks like a cone, right? It looks like a wedge. So it really depends on how you draw the other stuff. And this, I guess, to me, I don't really pay attention. So I think it was, again, going back to the Stephen, what's his name? Stephen Travers. Stephen Travers. That guy. The guy who I was watching Brunch Perspective videos. I think he was one of the ones who pointed out, like, if you have a painting that looking downhill, you don't have to draw the lines going down, right? The lines are still going up the page. And when he was explaining this, I couldn't comprehend what he was saying because I didn't think of things. I never cared if the lines were going up or down, right? Painting something that looks like you're going downhill does not need to have lines that are sloping down the page, right? You can paint a downhill scene with lines that go up the page simply by putting your horizon line up high enough, right? So if I were to say, is this a hill going up or downhill, you can't answer that. It could be going uphill if my eyes, you know, if this is my horizon line, right, and here's right, this is where the horizon line is, and so, you know, you have, you know, mountains back here or something, and then everything else is, you know, you have silos and stuff. Like, yeah, this is totally uphill, right? But if you put the scene way up here and you have all of these things, you know, going up here or whatever, suddenly this is now downhill, right? And it's And then this can curve back up on the other end or something. Okay, so this is downhill, but then it curves uphill. And yeah, you could totally have, I mean, this doesn't look right, but you get my point. You could totally have this as being downhill, right? If your eyes are up here and these are trees. So it really just depends on what you're looking at and how the perspective goes. It's Halo. Yeah. But yeah, I think some people do though, because I think I can vaguely remember myself trying to draw downhill environments where I was struggling because I kept making it look like I was painting uphill. I'm like, how do I make it paint downhill? Like, how do I do that? Right? Because that's a hard thing to paint. Did you ever paint a ring world? I don't quite know what you would mean by a ring world, but maybe, probably. I've probably painted a something that would qualify as that before. Like in the game Halo. Yeah, I never really I played Halo a few times, like the original Halos or Halo with friends, but I never really played the campaign or I don't know the story or the world. Do you often deal with foreshortening? Yeah, so I mean foreshortening is to me the way I would describe it is just the fact that things get this distance, so the I don't know if this is the x-axis, right? This is x and this is y. So it's oh, and this is y. So this it's the y-axis getting smaller and smaller, right? As you go further back. So eventually you're gonna right? It's this thing. This is foreshortening, right? You're losing horizontal or you're what is it? Forward and back information. Like you're everything's getting crunched, right? So yeah, foreshorten everything is yeah, you'd absolutely deal with foreshortening. I think in context of like characters, it's not as obvious. Or I mean it's more obvious. Like if you have an arm extending towards them. But that's just in perspective, right? That's just the fact that in perspective things are getting smaller and as they go further back, and as they get closer to you, they're getting larger. That's basically all it is. So yeah, I mean every building is dealing with foreshortening. I mean, this is foreshortening, right? This I mean, sometimes I don't consciously think about it like, oh, this edge should be more visible than another edge or something. And then, if this is some other thing. Yeah, I mean, it's basically just perspective, but it's hard because if you're drawing extreme stuff with focal points quite not focal depth quite close to you, right? This is often where you get things like, if I'm going to draw a cylinder, right? And this is imagine I'm drawing a square here, right? And obviously this has a very, very short focal depth, so there's a lot of exaggeration here. But imagine now I'm going to draw another one, but instead of that, I'm going to draw a cylinder, right? Maybe I'm going to make this cylinder really, really long, right? This would be like a person's arm coming at you, right? The reason this looks funky is because it has a weird focal depth, right? It's very exaggerated. This is coming very close to the camera, right? And this is going very far away from the camera, which means there's this huge exaggeration, and this doesn't really look that useful, right? This is where zooming out or zooming in and getting things can get really exaggerated, right? And I think when you're dealing with entire like one character who's taking up your entire painting, suddenly you have like this extreme thing. But this is still yeah, and obviously you could, instead just draw that cylinder like this and not go quite as extreme, right? If you don't make it as long. But yeah, this is foreshortening, right? Things are getting smaller, but also this looks extremely long because it's so exaggerated. But it's all the same effect as this angle getting very, very thin. Oh, I did that backwards. Right? This is getting very thin in here. And then it's getting wider. So yeah. But yeah, foreshortening is definitely a thing I deal with in drawing. I will say with environments, oftentimes when I block in shapes, I kind of skip that part. And I've talked about this before when adding depth, right? I always say there's like 4 ways to add depth, or 4 main ways, right? There's, at least in environments, there's overlapping shapes, which is the one that I rely on most probably. And then there is um what else is? Oh yeah, there's linear perspective. So things like, again, I guess it's technically foreshortening, but it's, things. I guess I would call it scale, right? There's scale, where if you have an object in the foreground, right, and then you have an object in the background, they're going to be much smaller. And if you have one really far back, it's right. This, you could call this foreshortening, but really foreshortening is the distance on the object itself. So like this, if I were to draw this object as a 3-dimensional object, right, it's how this, the xy or the y distance of that object is shortened, right? So foreshortening, I don't really think about in terms of this. This is more scale. But then, yeah, so one of the fourth one, or yeah, technically third is values or whatever, but and then the fourth one would be, yeah, so describing form with lines. And that's where I think foreshortening comes in, is because you start focusing on the actual surface of the objects, right? If I just draw a shape like this, let's say here, right? You can't really tell the foreshortening because I haven't really described the form at all, right? But once I start adding these lines in, now you can start to see where this maybe I just dissect this line into half, right? This is where you start seeing the foreshortening come into play, right? I start, the halfway mark might be closer, right? There's more distance here than there is here. So this is the, it's foreshortened toward, So that's where I don't really consider big chunky objects like this really having foreshortening. But once I start describing the form and I'm drawing forms in 3 dimensions, that's when foreshortening happens. But yeah, it's not really a thing that I think too much about early on. Really, I'm just thinking of scale, and then as I describe the form of those things in different scales, that's where I have to be aware that, oh hey, like, I mean, for example, again, if you have a square in perspective and you want to divide it in half, you don't just measure this, right? You don't just say, here, let's try to do this precisely. And to make my point, if I have a square in perspective, so let's just say here's my eye level, my big eyes right there, and I'm looking at an object, and maybe it's, it's going this way, like this. So here's my eyes. Okay, whatever. There's a little tiny square down here. The S is not going to be perfect because I'm just kind of eyeballing it. Haha, get it? Okay, anyway. There's eyeballs on my screen. Anyway, so yeah, if I want to draw halfway from here to here, I don't just measure this and say, where's halfway? There's actually a way you can do it by bisecting and then drawing half, like this, right? This distance from here to here is going to be shorter than here to here. Although in this case, it's probably not by much because... But yeah, see, so this one is much longer, or not much, but it's a little bit longer, right? And that's because... Not because I drew it poorly, but because of foreshortening, right? But if I'm just drawing a square, I don't really think that you think much about foreshortening, because foreshortening is more about within a contained object, right? So with it, if I'm drawing windows, for example, I have to be aware that, these windows are going to be, there's going to be more window over here and less window over here, right? Because this area is getting smaller and smaller, right? So that's when I would start thinking of the concept of foreshortening. But I don't really think about that if I'm just adding, just a singular object. It's more I mean, technically, if I'm adding multiple objects, I do have to think about how long they are. Sometimes sometimes you see people, if you're drawing like this tower, right, they might go like this, and then they'll draw a big tower like this without realizing just how long if you were to walk the distance of this, it'd be like a mile because there shouldn't be this much surface area on this side because it should be getting thinner and thinner as you go back. So if you have like a square over here, this is not going to have this much surface area, right? So instead, you might want to do something like this, right? So you have a tiny bit here. That way this area, because that area is where foreshortening is happening, right? So I think that's probably the way that I think about it. But honestly, just by remembering things flatten out and get very, very thin as they go further back. I mean, this is the same thing with when I draw a lake, right? If I'm drawing little puddles back here, I draw almost horizontal against the ground. But then oops, what just happened? Hold on, but then as I get further to us, right, now they start to get a little fatter because the foreshortening is... So yeah, I mean, if foreshortening happens every time I draw these little lakes... Canvas getting silly, yeah. I was trying to hit too many buttons at once. Right, so this is foreshortening, right? We have a lot of depth here, not as much here, not as much here, right? You could also just call it scale, but it's specifically scale within that direction. Right, so that's foreshortening. Or at least that's how I think of it. I don't know. Maybe there's a different definition. But yeah. I feel like perspective is... I like perspective. I don't think it's that complicated, but I also understand that there's it's hard. It's almost a different way of thinking. I think the main thing is just being aware of where your eyes are, which is your horizon line. But instead of the term horizon line, which sucks because there is an actual thing called a horizon, which is not the same as your horizon line. So that's like a stupid term because whoever thought of calling it the horizon line when they must have grown up on like the ocean to call it that. Like I don't know who invented the term horizon line, but I'm pretty sure they grew up in some extremely flat place. It should just be called eye level. Eye level is what you're identifying, right? Because eye level determines whether you're looking up. Something's above your eye level, that means you see underneath it, right? If something's below your eye level, that means you're seeing onto top of it. And I think keeping that in mind, that's the reason, like how you draw an object changes based on if it's above or below you. And as it gets closer and closer to transitioning from above to below, it starts to flatten out, right? And that's when it flattens out, that's where you start getting these. Again, it's like maximally foreshortened, right? At the right on the horizon line, if you have like a puddle, right now you can see a lot of this distance, but all the way on the horizon line or your eye level, it's just a line. It's maximally flat. And then, of course, going up the other way, right, you would start to see underneath, say this was instead of a lake, it were now flying saucers or something, right? Now you would start to see, as it gets closer and closer, you'd see more and more of the underside of it, right? So on the lake side, right, because I didn't want to make floating lakes, but on the lakes you can see a lot of this, and above it, on the saucer, you can see a lot of the bottom. But as they get towards the bottom, they both become totally flat. So I think that's probably the biggest use of foreshortening that I use in day-to-day painting is like puddles and clouds and really anything. As it goes further back, it gets more flat. But I don't really draw... I don't know. It's yeah. It's different. Florida, yeah. They must have grown up in Florida. The inventors of the horizon line. I mean, it really is a misconception. Also, speaking of misconceptions around perspective, calling things 2-point perspective and 3-point perspective, my issue with that is the word point. Point implies like a dot, right? And so when you say 3-point perspective, it makes you sound like you have 3 dots. No, you can have many, many, many vanishing points. Each vanishing point, there isn't just one, right? There's not just three vanishing points in 3-point perspective, right? There's three axes of convergence, but every object could have its own vanishing point, or three of their own vanishing points, or more if the object is irregular shaped, right? If it's not just a square, it could have you could have one object having many vanishing points. And that's, I think, where it gets really confusing because people assume they know what you're talking about because of the words, and it's not about the words, it's about the context and the meaning of the words, and the words are just confusing. I mean, we were kind of talking about words earlier, right? Like when with the counter or the anyway counter. So there's a big difference of how I use that word and when I use it and what it means. And same with 3-point perspective. I think so many people see someone draw in 3-point perspective with exactly 3 vanishing points and assume that that means that you need 3 vanishing points for 3-point perspective, when in reality you could have more than that. Settling the ones for the scene itself is useful. Well, so it can be nice to decide, like, if you have a perfectly uniform object in the middle, right? Let's say you're doing, again, a 3-point perspective, so we're looking at the angle of a building, let's say, we're looking downward, and, there's something, these are going one way, these are going another way, right? These are going somewhere over here. Well, I drew that poorly, but you get the idea, right? These are going somewhere over here. Oh, and these are going somewhere up here. Pardon my hasty drawing. Right? This isn't 3-point perspective, but this isn't for the scene. Right? This isn't for anything. This is just for this object. Because if I rotate this object, right? If I just rotate it, suddenly I have different 3 points. Right? I still might have the top ones being the same. If I can do this right. I don't know if I can do this appropriately, right? And then maybe there's more. I'm probably doing this poorly. I think you can start to get the idea that I'm making. Like if I rotate it, I'm using different points here, right? Now this point's over here. This point might be, well, here, let's make it even. This one's there. This one's even further out, let's say. I'm making it funky. Okay, I'm destroying this. But anyway, you get the idea. So the idea is that as you rotate objects, right, the vanishing points move. And if this wasn't a square, right, if this angle came off like this, and then had another angle here, so it was like a house, suddenly you have these are going to converge, right? So these are going to go somewhere else. These are going to go somewhere else, right? And then, you have this stuff. Like you have so many different vanishing points for a single object because it's not just 4 parallel sides. Every side is there's different angles, right? This is not 90 degrees. This is 90 degrees, right? This is a disastrous of an example, but I think the point is, depending on what you're drawing, there isn't like a set vanishing point. Like you could set up like a, perfectly parallel to the screen, right? But again, if you do that, now you're in 1-point perspective, right? Right. This is you've gone into 1-point perspective because you've constrained yourself. But if I rotate this object again, right? This is like an exercise in me struggling. Right now, we have 2-point perspective, right? So this went from 1-point perspective to 2-point in the same image. So technically, this was 2-point perspective all along, right? And if I were to make an object really, really tall, I could have 3-point. Again, it's to me, it's more about if you're drawing a single object. So most of the time, like if you're just walking around in real life, right, everything is in 3-point perspective to some degree, right? If you look up at something really tall, it's going to look like 3. If you're looking at something really small and in front of you, or something small and far away, it's probably going to look like 1 point perspective, right? If you look at like a medium-sized object that's right in front of you, it's probably going to look like 2. If it's rotated on its side, right? If it's not rotated on its side, it's going to look like 1. It just depends. But in real life, pretty much everything is at least 3-point perspective, right? If you're wearing fat glasses like I do, you might even have a little curvature, and everything's kind of in 4-point perspective. But mostly everything's 3-point perspective. But in drawing, you just kind of use whatever works, right? If you need 3-point perspective, you add that third point. Most of the time, you're not going to have a distortion in one part of the image but not in the other, so you kind of decide on whether that distortion exists by deciding how far away from the camera it is, because suddenly you're focused on composition, right? You're not going to draw like a face up in the camera that's super distorted, and then you're going to draw a detailed 1-point perspective building in the distance. Like, you don't really typically have extreme scale issues like this, or composition issues. Those living in 40. No, but so these glasses that I have, there is a ever on the edges of my frames, they're ever so slightly, the verticals will curve. Not much, and I forget about it. But like if I kind of tilt my head and peer out of the corner of my eye, I can see the verticals curving. And it's a bit, I don't know, it's kind of wonky. Neither. The world is isometric. I mean, yeah, sure. I mean, visually, we're at a point and we see outward, so we don't really see it in isometric. But yeah, totally. By S2. Thank you, by the way, for follow. So yeah, my point is, I think this idea, and I think this is one of the points that the Stephen Travers guy makes. I don't know I think that's his name. And he makes the point that a lot of people teach perspective from an architect's point of view, which is they are drawing a single object, so they decide early on whether it's 1, 2, or 3-point. But if you're actually in the real world drawing something from life, you aren't deciding whether it's 1, 2, or 3-point perspective. You're just drawing, like everything's 3-point, right? I mean, it could be different if you have a camera or something, or that's distorting it, or glasses like I do, or maybe you're have impeccable far distance vision or something. I don't know. Like, sure, there's stuff that could change it, but the idea is that you would have to discover how to draw those lines, where your eye level is on your own, and you're not trying to just show something in a predetermined scene. Yeah, so by isometric, I assume by isometric you mean where it's almost like 0-point perspective, right? Where you have, and we've actually done this on stream, where you have everything's at the same angle, nothing converges, and if something is far away, you could take this object. Let's do this. You could take this object and just stack it on top, right? There isn't a, right? Or you could, if you wanted to make something come out forward, you could stack it in front, and there is no perspective, and so it's the same thing, right? And this is not a bad way of doing it. And you could even do something behind, right? You could erase stuff like this. You could add things, right? If you wanted, every line goes directly outward. There is no, you can just follow it, right? Yeah, it's almost like playing with Legos, right? There is no perspective, right? And you could obviously erase some of these lines. You could add additional things, but if you do, they're going to be perfectly straight, right? You could add little insets and all sorts of things, but again, it's just perfectly straight lines. And yeah, that's isometric basically. Now, technically, I think in technical terms, isometric drawings, and obviously you could still go at angles too, but even those angles are going to be parallel to each other. Now this isn't this isn't technically uh, perfect isometric because I think there's an actual technical term for the angles that you use, and I think it's 30, isn't it 30 30? Typically people do like 30 30 whatever for the angle. So a 30-degree angle here, 30-degree angle here, and then 90 here. No, not 90. What's the 30 plus 30 is 60. The one it needs to be add up to 180, so 120. So this would be 120, right? I think technically this is what people do it. Yeah. So I think this is what people typically draw isometric at if you're doing it like, professionally or something. But technically if you were doing a video game of your own, you could choose your own view, right? You could choose your own angle. So this probably is not correct, but this is the concept, right? There is no perspective because parallel lines never converge, whereas in perspective, parallel lines will always converge somewhere. But yeah, I don't. So yeah, I don't. I think it's funny. I think you can rotate the view. True. Yeah, you can rotate objects. That's true. That's true. You can rotate objects. That's a good point. Yeah, okay. I don't know why the whole 30 30 120 thing. Maybe that's just what I remember from like architecture, landscape architecture days, where you start out drawing things in that view because they wanted. I don't know. I'm not sure exactly why, to be honest. But yeah, you have a good point. If you rotated it, wouldn't be. And you definitely can rotate stuff in isometric. But the idea is that you can still copy paste it and it will always be the same angles, right? So it's not too confusing. I feel like isometric is how people think you would draw, like the intuitive way of drawing 3D, because you know that things are parallel, so you draw them parallel. But then in reality, you're like, oh wait, they look like they get smaller and they converge, and then you'll get all the complications of perspective. Like, I don't know the history of perspective, but I would almost guarantee that isometric drawings came first. Honestly, I think isometric workflows, in some ways, I think they look better. One for design, because it's easy to make things consistent size, right? If you want something half as big, you just scale it down to half as big, right? You don't have to worry about perspective and foreshortening and all the things, right? If you want to rotate something, you rotate it. If you want to make it twice as large, you make it twice as large, right? If you want to match an angle, you literally just match the angle to the other objects in your screen, right? If you want to make an object, something at the same angle and same distance, you literally copy and paste it, and it will be the same angle and the same distance. So I do think that in some ways it's better, and it almost looks better too because of the consistency. Now, I think if somebody's really good at perspective and they're extremely precise, it definitely can look beautiful. Also, I'm going so slowly today. 5-minute thumbnail sketch. You've got it. You've got it. 5-minute thumbnail sketch coming up. I like how the countdown is done. It has been on my screen for forever. Okay. Let me drink some tea first. Yeah, I mean, I think if you're doing design work, honestly, isometric is the way to go because easily you could easily translate it into 3D, right? There's no question about the scale, the size. If you don't know the for example, if you want to figure out the ratio of, a window height to the building height in isometric, you can literally measure, right? You can't do that in perspective because, well, technically you can, but if it's tipped on its side or something, or let's say it's an object that's being rotated, it becomes a little tricky. Like, or sorry, not rotated, but askew, like tipped to the side. Suddenly those lines, you can't just measure them, right? Just like we couldn't measure halfway point in a square because you don't, right? You can't just measure the halfway point. You have to do like geometry kind of. Um, so yeah, we have an average of 30 minutes per thumbnail. Yep. I mean, this has been almost a purely ranting stream. But yeah, we can do a 5-minute thumbnail. Let's do it. Okay, starting now. All right, so this one, let's do an underwater thing. It's the end of May. End of May, mermaid vibes coming to a close. Let's slap in some dark blues. Let's use a different brush. Let's use this brush. Thank you for your time. No, thank you for talking and rant subjects. They're great. Rant subjects are great. But I really have been sort of blown away by that YouTube channel I've been finding, because he's been describing a lot of the things that I feel like a lot of people come up against, which is using perspective and like from a photo versus designing perspective from your head. And I have always learned from the design perspective in your head thing, which doesn't really always apply in real life, right? Like I said, there's a difference between learning perspective, like a 1, 2, 3 point, which is what everybody learns, versus in real life where everything's kind of 3-point. Sort of. I mean, in simplified terms. But I think that is... I think that's probably one of the big things that really does hang people up. This might be underwater. Ooh, this is definitely some sort of building. Now I'm doing more perspective-y stuff. Maybe there's a... I don't know. This could be something. Let's I don't know, maybe orange? That's pretty orange. This could be a boat. It could be a boat. I mean, I was thinking this would be... Again, I wasn't really thinking this was going to be underwater, but I did say that, so maybe I should bake it underwater. Let's get different colors in here. If there's one thing I want to do today, it's going to be fun colors. So let's slap in all the colors. If it is underwater, I should probably... So now this is where I think about foreshortening, right? Because this is going in there. Maybe there's a little bit of light coming down here. Maybe there's a whole bunch of glowy stuff in here too. So let's make this really gray. I'm just going to slap in some glow dodge. Ooh, this is kind of fun. Maybe there's some light from up here. Maybe this is the water line. And then I'm going to make a new layer. I'm going to start taking this. I don't know if this is going to look good, but... Okay, we're going to make this a little darker. Maybe there's some shapes. I'm kind of ignoring some of the stuff I did earlier. Maybe there's some stuff here. Maybe some stuff here. I'm just drawing some fun lines in here. I don't know exactly what it's going to be. I do feel like there's something going on. Oh crap, 18 seconds. Great colors, go, go, go. Yeah, I'm losing it here. But there's something here, right? We could totally have some sort of things in here. Some colors or something. Maybe they're... Here, I realize that the countdown's done, but we're going to cheat a little bit. And we're going to make some shapes up here. Because I totally never cheat on these, ever. I'm always extremely good at stopping at the time. Okay, anyway. There's that. There's something. Maybe that's even worse. I don't know. Anyway, that's the thing. Sunmazu, how are you? Also, Salad Bandit, hello. So yeah, back to more painting. Anyway. Did I say anyway? It's funny, I think I said anyway, and then so I said it anyway, and then well, I didn't hear myself say it, but I knew it was the time where I would normally say it, and then I came back and I tried to not say it, and then I think I said it anyway. Oh no. No. Me simply saying the word doesn't count. It has to be in the whatever. I'm not even gonna try. Okay. So, yeah, I'm not sure if I like that thumbnail, but it's something. I am gonna try to speed through a few though, because it's all good. I mean, I'm sure I've used that word a lot. This was only today, so you've created a force you can't control. I mean, that's streaming for you. That's creative. I mean, that's basically creative stuff in general, right? You start something and then you're like, oh, this looks like something. It's like, I guess it is that thing now. And obviously I have some control, but yeah. You never know where stream's gonna go. Just like you don't always know where your paintings from imagination are gonna go. We can't all call it the same anyway. Yeah, that's true. We are gonna rig this so hard because he says anyway one time and 3 people write the command. Well, I can set a cooldown of like 5 seconds or something, so that if one person types it, the others won't. Right? That way, if everyone spams at the same time, it's not gonna double or triple register. But I think for the first few streams, we can have it without the cooldown so that it catches up to where it truly should be. Okay, let's do a painting. I have an idea. Let's take this painting that we just did, the 5-minute thumbnail. Let's merge visible. Yeah, today's thumbnails are... Yeah, I'm going a little slow on them. I'll be honest. Going a little slow. Edit. Tonal correction. Hue saturation. I'm going to change up the saturation. Nope, not saturation. I'm going to change up the hue. That could be fun. Today's thumbnails are brought to you in part by Anyways. Exactly. Thank you. Rack up that notch count. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to flip my screen to black and white for a moment. After I put in some... What's a color that's... Okay, here we go. So I'm going... Hey, Cassini, how are you? So I'm going to flip my screen to black and white real quick. And then I'm just going to paint something different than what I have here. And I'm purely going to focus on big shapes, values. It's a remix. It is a remix, but it's yeah, totally a remix. Everything's a remix. Especially on stream. I've done so many thumbnails that at this point, they're all just variations of each other. Kind of. Especially when I have a limited way of thinking about things like perspective and other stuff. Just trying to sketch in some shapes again in perspective. These can go further back. Maybe there's some overhang up here. Something like that. Maybe these can go up here. I'm just trying to make some interesting lines, but using light and dark. Joe is a walking human. I tested black and white function you showed last time. Apparently, all the official diagram are in colors that suitable for red, green, colorblind. Wait, what? All the official diagram colors are suitable for red, green, color people. Wait, what? Hold on. I feel like I'm struggling to read this. Apparently, all the official diagrams are in colors that are suitable for red, green, colorblind people. Having a stroke? I'm trying to figure out. I don't know what that means. I don't. Sorry, I feel like I'm reading comprehension is going down the drain. What I mean, what do you? If you're trying out black and white, why would it matter what colors they're in? I don't understand. But that so what's the conclusion? Did it work for you? Did the black and white feature work the way that you wanted it to? I I feel like there's a punchline or a conclusion that I'm missing. Like okay, I don't know what that means even. I'm sorry. I'm just very confused. I don't. I feel like I don't understand what you just wrote, and I don't. I think it's a me problem, but I don't know how. Starting with sketching watercolors to maybe start. I can't. How Lost Joe is slightly panicking. I don't know. Yeah. Sometimes I don't know how to respond because it's like I don't know what you're trying to say. I'm pretty sure if I were smarter, I could piece it together, but I can't. I'm panicking. Yep, that's what it is. There's this. Maybe there's a little bright light back here. I'm just gonna pretend I didn't read it, and then it'll go away. Just kidding. I am curious though. I'm loving number 9. Yeah, this one, knowing that it's in blue and whatever is gonna be interesting. The colors don't change much when I use the filter. Deuteranopia can be used as filters as well, besides black and white. Huh. I'm still confused. I don't. I think I'm too stupid for this conversation. Can you say it as if I were like 5 years old? Explain like I'm 5. Uh, this is gonna need to be like the point of stream is just pretend I'm a child. Maybe if I don't say anything, they will notice that I don't comprehend. Yeah, pretty much. I'm sorry, Cassini. I hope I'm not offending you by laughing at this. I'm not understanding something. I could literally hear the cogs trying to turn. I mean, yeah, I just didn't get it. And I don't want to offend, but again, I think it's a me problem. Okay, so here's some colors. Ooh, okay, so this is what happens when I make it not black and white. Somehow I got the blue up top by pure luck. What the hell is cogs? Cogs are like the gears, the gearbox. You it's the the turning of the things. He means a yellow-blue filter. Okay. I think. Yeah, is that what you're saying? In conclusion, you're colorblind? Well, colorblind people see the pictures in the same colors as I do. Yeah, aren't you saying that you're colorblind? Isn't that what you're saying? That's kind of my head hurts. I'm I'm gonna keep painting. Anyway, here's this thumbnail, which I quite like. We took this one, changed the colors, and then we started painting on top and doing some other thing. It's just sort of like a I feel like it could be a scene that we could construct architecture on. Partially colorblind. Even though I am laughing so hard at Joe right now, I gotta admit I'm not following either. Okay. Well, I'm glad I'm not the only one, but also I'm sorry, Cassini, because I feel like I'm having fun at not at your expense, but at sort of at your message, because I don't know what you're. I kind of so I get that you're talking about colors and color filters, and I understand that color filters could potentially like I don't really get what that had to do with trying the black and white feature. So the black and white feature, for those who don't know, is if when I hit Control Windows C, it makes my screen black and white, and it's a Windows command, right? So if I switch scene, right, but I'm not turning off the filter, now you can see colors, but I still can't, right? Because I'm using the Windows feature, which is if you enable it this way, you go to grayscale, turn color filters. Oh, you can't see that because I'm on the wrong screen. So if I go to Windows, color filter, turn color filters on or off, I click this, right? So this is... Oh, okay, I see. You selected these. Okay, oh, I see what you're saying, Cassini. So you've selected different color filters. I see. So you're going through these and switching these things. Okay, I understand. I see. Yeah, so I'm just using grayscale because I'm using it for values. I feel like these are not affecting the values properly. Or are they? I don't know how to tell, actually. Anyway. But yeah. Gotcha. I'm talking nonsense. Okay. I think I understand what you're saying. So you're saying you're using these and it's like you're seeing as a colorblind person sees. Maybe. Maybe sort of. Which that's fair. I could see that argument being made. But yeah, anyway, so I use this. So if you guys don't know, I do use this. It helps me toggle these on or off. I had forgotten these were an option, Cassini. That's why I was so confused. I thought you were just suddenly talking about like big words, and I was like, what are you talking about? But I get it now. Okay. Oh no, I said it again. So yeah, here are the colors that I'm seeing, which are grayscale. It's actually good because you don't need to create the grayscale first. Yeah, exactly. So this is why you there's ways to do this in Photoshop as well. You can pick your color palette. So you can take something that you like, maybe you have like a pinky color, reds, right? Some dark colors, some really dark colors. All right, so maybe this is your color palette, and then you have like this soft. Actually, maybe this is all darker, and then you have like a soft blue or something, right? As your light source. So if this is your color palette, you could say, okay, well, my light is gonna be blue, and my colors are gonna be red. Or my darks are going to be red. I apologize. And then from here, you can just turn it to grayscale and start painting as if you have your three values, right? You have your darks, mediums, lights. If you want to get something that's slightly lighter, you can take that bluish color, which again is just a light color, and you can mix it into your darks. And so by using these filters, you can purely focus on your values, right? So maybe there's a thing like this, and it goes up, or a shape. Maybe there's other shapes. Maybe this is too big. I don't know. Let's not do that. Maybe we're looking across here. Now let's go here, actually. And then maybe there's like something else here. Goes down. So just by carving these shapes, I feel like I'm getting a sense of what the space is. However, I'm already have my color palette selected. So even though I'm painting in black and white, so this is a really fun way of painting. And now if I want like a lighter color, I just mix it into this other color, which even though I'm pretty sure this is blue, sometimes you'll be surprised. Ooh, maybe I like this idea of like the circle thingy. So maybe I'll do that, but I'll move this over here. So maybe this is like a giant portal. It's all about values. Yeah, I mean it is. It mostly all about values. And this is like so one of the things color is nice though is because I know I have a blue light. So blue light is funny, right? So I'm gonna move this off screen so you can't see it, so I don't see it. When you have like yellow light, right? Warm yellow light, like in this makes it a very daytime feeling thing. But when you have a blue light, you start to get this weird effect, and it almost makes it feel supernaturally or nighttime scene. And so that's kind of what I'm doing here, which I don't know what effect it's going to give or what mood, because I can't, here, I'm going to cheat, right? So this is kind of a weird color palette, right? But maybe I am starting to like this, but maybe I want to experiment more. So maybe I come in here and do like an overlay. Maybe I want to play around with some blue greens. Maybe I'm going to use like a weird brush, something different. I don't know. So maybe the blue light's coming from here. Yeah, very Stargate thingy. Maybe there's some light coming in here. Maybe the dark purple's over here. Just kind of tapping into my canvas here. Now I'm probably destroying my values a little bit. Okay, now I'm going to go back to grayscale. And then I'm going to take these shapes. Oh, now let's go back to this brush. So that whatever color I'm picking is actually true. And then now I can just start painting into here. So I can start carving in the depth. I can start, these shapes could be rocks. But the nice thing about this is because even though I'm thinking about this scene in grayscale, I am painting with colors. So it should look okay. Right, so these can be lines. Again, this is, somebody asked about foreshortening earlier. This is where foreshortening comes into play, right? Because this, if I want to divide this by half, this is coming out further, right? This should be going even further back. So this is kind of where I start thinking, and also brush size can start influencing this, can make it appear larger, right? This is going to be, So this is going to be half of here. Anyway, you get the idea. Maybe now I want to put some blue light in here. So I'm going to take this like that. And then I'm going to take some more. Put something like that. I don't know if I like these little stripes of white, but I feel like there is a nice sort of pattern being created here. And these should be the same color as the light because I picked the light source in the background. Maybe this is coming that way. This is coming that way. Maybe we get some more colors here. Anyway, so I'm starting to see, I feel like I can start to see some sort of environment here is being made. Maybe there's some shapes in here, some funky shape designs, maybe something like that. Anyway, oh god. Say it again. Okay. So yeah, here's that. And then maybe we have some darker shapes under here. Again, I'm just painting in grayscale, so that's all you guys can see, and that's all I can see, but I am using colors. I just can't see them. Okay, so reveal. There we go. That's the color palette, which is kind of cool. I mean, we could do more though. We could take a glow dodge or color dodge. One after the other. He's definitely in the art trance. Yeah, I am. When I'm not thinking about it, I say it a lot. Ronald P. Maxwell, welcome in. How are you? What were you working on? I probably have a guess what you're working on. You were, what biome were you working on today? Cult of Ron. Yeah. Ooh, what if I do this? Very bright. There we go. Dinosaur jungle coast biome. Ah, nice. Still working on that. That's awesome. Do you want to share what you've had? That sounds exciting. I like that whole concept that you're doing. Ooh, a portal. Yeah, portal. It's a portal. You could just make a portal just by taking the glow dodge brush and putting it in there. Actually, I kind of like this. Hold on. Let's try this. Let's take this painting. This is a different painting. We're going to merge all of these together. Copy and paste. And then I'm going to edit, tonal correction, hue saturation, change the hue. Probably not by much though, because I kind of like the red. I like that. We did this today for a good idea of where things are living. Ooh, let's take a look. Oh, this is cool. This is such a nice environment. You got so this is the dinosaur jungle coast biome. Oh, I like it. You got the coast and the jungle. And this is on the edge. And okay, that's cool. I like this a lot. Also, I like the dino. Look at the dino in there. Are there any more things hidden? I don't see any. But there's a dino. He's hiding. Look at him. I like this a lot. This is cool. I really like the way you draw and your lines and the oops. the lines and the big bold brushstrokes and the simplified forms on the trees. There's something about it that just is nice. I don't know how to describe it, but it's very pleasing to look at. Not up in the sky, the jungle. Oh yeah, there's some flyers up here. See, even this simplified way of drawing these, right? It's not just an X, right? You have the silhouette there as well. Anyway, I like it. This is very nice. This is cool. Thank you so much for the raid. Also, if you came in with Ronald's stream, thank you for being here. Hope you're all doing well today. Did I really say anyway? I don't believe you. See, now I think you're trolling me. I think I'm getting trolled. And that means a lot to me, sir. I often doubt my style, and so I'm always working on it and toying with it. Yeah, I mean, that's... Yeah, I think different people have different ways of talking about it. For me, I mumbled it, probably. I feel like for me, I don't really even think of it as style. I mean, I get that there's like, I'm always working on skills and trying to learn and consistency and all that. Like there, but, and I do, obviously that makes up style in some degree. But yeah, I mean, I guess it is just a combination of all your choices and your skills and everything. I mean, I just think it looks nice. I wouldn't even say it's a style thing. Yeah, it's just nice. I don't know. I mean, you could probably use any brush, any process, and it would still look good because you know when something is looking good, right? So if you decide that it's not looking good, then you're gonna fix it until it does look good. It's in the captions. Oh, is it? Is that what you're using for that? Oh my goodness. Do I have to turn off the closed captions? Oh, that is genius. I didn't know. Oh my goodness. What if I say a word that sounds like it? No, wait, but you can't do that though, because if you just use captions to know if I say the word anyway, it's gonna pop up that word and you're gonna think that I said it in the context. Maybe? I don't know. Okay, let me try something. I'm going to take this painting. And if you're just coming in and totally confused, it was brought to my attention today that after every rant, I always say the word anyway. No, it does not count if I'm addressing it as the word. It's only when I use it as a transition out of a rant and into a thing, right? I oftentimes will say, for example, so anyway, but back to art, right? I'll say something like that. That's not, yeah, that was an example. Anyway, it was brought to my attention that I say that a lot. Like a lot. And I'm trying to cut back on it, but it's hard because I'm not even aware when I do it. It's so ingrained. So it's hard to break a habit when you're not aware that you're doing the habit. Oh my gosh. You're killing me with this. Oh, it is a command now. It's a command now, Skittle. It wasn't the command. We turned it into one. 17 already? Oh yeah. I have a problem. This is like when people say ums or uhs and they don't realize they say it and they're like, why am I not a good public speaker? Or if let's just say you're a Twitch streamer, right? And maybe you're struggling, you feel like people just don't stick around. Listen to your own audio and see if maybe, I mean, again, it's probably not any ways that are going to scare people away, but it might be. I have a habit of saying those are peachy keen and comfy cool. Do you actually say that without thinking about it? Like, if you were to say it, would you maybe not know that you said that? You tend to say so far so good. It's funny. You do? Okay, yeah. Because see, when I say the word anyway, I actually don't know when I say it. In fact, sometimes I'm thinking already that LA Friend is screwing with me and is typing it out the command when I didn't even say it because I actually don't know. But it kind of makes sense. Like, for example, I know if I switch from a rant to art topic, there's probably a good chance I said it, even if I don't remember. I say enough on stream that I have a count on mine for it too. Oh, okay. Yeah, counters are fun. So what I'm trying to do now is play around with getting some saturation in here. Ooh. So color dodge looks nice if you use a lot of color, but it looks pretty bad if you use like a lot of white. That's kind of what I'm getting from here. I have a chronic habit of saying okie dokie. I like okie dokie. That's not a bad one though. I feel like that's kind of charming in a way. Like I don't think that would be a deterrent. I mean maybe. No, I don't think so. I mean I don't even think any way would be a deterrent, to be honest. I will say things such as I think this is nice, or like I'll say things that are kind of the same. I'll say things in the same way. Like the sentiment will be that I'm liking this. Like I think this is okay, or this is pretty decent so far. And I do feel like I will tend to say the same words instead of switching up my word choice. Anyway, I said it again. I heard myself that time. I was trying to switch. I think anyway is my go-to for switching topics. It's just my topic switcher, you know? Yeah, well, I'm doing some portals here. Or a portal. Maybe we put some. Let's see. Is there perspective stuff? Yeah, kinda. In a similar vein, but with text chat over voice, I find myself saying "ooh" a lot, as in "ooh, that looks really cool." Yeah. I don't mind that though. I think it, as Neo pointed out, not all repetitive words or filler words are bad. But I do think if, like I said, if you find yourself noticing that the streamer says a thing a lot, it could, in theory, pull them out of it. So, like, if you're pulling someone out of the thought, or they're not paying attention to what you're saying because they're too caught up in that you use the same funny word choice all the time, I think that's when it could be a deterrent. But it also wouldn't matter. It also depends on what you're actually streaming, I think. If you're trying to talk about perspective or something and people can't stop noticing that you're, making those like whistling sounds through your nose, like they're not going to be able to learn from you because that's distracting. Speaking of something, so I had a professor in community college back when I was in high school. So I was in high school. Did a program called Running Start. Basically, you can take college credits. I did this for 1 year. I had a teach. Actually, I don't even know if you call him a professor. I guess he was. Maybe I don't know if he was. Anyway, he crap. Said it again. He he only had one lung because of some thing. Anyway, he only had one lung, so every so often he would make these sharp inhale sounds, and they were kind of like squeaky sounds. And I don't care, right? I think it didn't bother me really, but I would be lying if I said I didn't notice it, right? Obviously, everybody noticed it because it was a thing he did for good reason, right? You can't shame the guy for it, right? He only had like he it was a and it was a bodily thing that he had to deal with, and yeah, okay, whatever. He had one lung, and he made these sharp inhales, squeaky sounds. But because when he was lecturing, you would just like it was harder to focus, just like even a little bit harder to focus because he would pull you out of whatever thought you were in by this thing. Jay, take the day off. What do you mean take the day off? What are you saying? What are you saying? Hi, how are you? Why take the day off? What? Anyway, my point is this professor, you'd be pulled out of your train of thought every so often. And I don't think it was enough to like make a noticeable difference in like your grades or anything. But I could imagine that if you were to take the same content without it and the same content with, that you might be able to you might have students just on average pay a little bit more attention without this sort of minor distraction. And obviously, this is something that was unavoidable to this guy, so you can't hold it against him. But I think when it comes to things that you can choose, yeah, I don't know. I think it's an interesting topic, and I think it kind of just comes with the territory of streaming, to be honest. Where you just pay attention to stuff because that's the improvements that you make are incremental and they're tiny, and so yeah. Because you work all the time, sir. Do I? Do I though? I mean, sort of, maybe, kind of. I don't know. I don't think I work all the time. I mean, I do. I only stream 12 hours a week. Not that much. It's not bad. We will vote, or yeah, we are gonna vote here pretty soon though. So if you're new to stream and you don't know what the voting thing's all about, basically I take one of these thumbnails and I'm gonna turn it into an actual painting. I had a professor that used to speak at 200 decibels and I could barely focus, my ears bleeding. Yeah, see, that's another thing again with streaming. If you have your volume too loud or the balance between your music and your volume, if if the music's louder than the voice, it's hard to hear. And things like that are just they're annoying enough that they draw your attention. Or maybe not annoying enough, right? It's like a focal point. It's an unintentional focal point of your stream or your presentation, right? If you're a teacher and you're wearing, some teachers really like to wear funky stuff, right? Like clothing that is, out there and be wild. But I do think at a certain point, obviously it's a balancing act because sometimes you like the teacher more, so you're more engaged. But other times, if something's actually drawing people's attention, that there is breaking their concentration, that's sort of an unintentional focal point, and it might take away from the actual message. And I think this obviously has a lot of parallels with art, because art, you don't want unintentional focal points, because then people are looking at that instead of understanding the actual thing. Now, it's fine to have secondary focal points, but not unintentional. Or I guess it is okay to have unintentional, but you get what I'm saying. Oh, well then, looks like you could stream later tonight too. Well, that's not happening. Speaking of later tonight, today is a holiday in the US. I believe it's Memorial Day. And because of that, I did not work today. But I work tomorrow, which means I work tonight, because I work at nights. So it sucks. I work tonight. That's what I'm trying to say. This is kind of cool, but what if I bring down this a little bit? So I'm trying to bring down the ground plane And almost like this is a valley or something. I don't actually know how this is gonna work, but just trying. I thought you worked finance at a grocery store. Not finance. No, I would not call it finance. But I do work at a grocery store, and I do work overnight. Yes. Yeah, that's. I mean, sure, we can call it finance. I don't. It's not actually finance, but yeah, we can call it that. Working usual hours suck so much. I have to work at 5 in the morning. Rip. Psh, that's nothing. Sorry, not trying to one up you. No, it is. Yeah, it sucks. I actually don't mind working early. As long as it's consistent. If it's consistent, it's fine. But yeah, I actually work nights, overnight and early morning. So technically tonight I only need to go in at 3 a.m. So I work at 3 a.m. But I might go in earlier if I'm awake, just so that I can get the day done with faster because I kind of have the choice of doing what I want, and my sleep schedule is going to be all goofed up from this whole thing because I don't normally work tonight or tomorrow morning, depending on how you want to view it. Brushes. Oh, yes, I do have a brush thing there. Perfect. How are you, Zoltan? Hope you're doing well. Just trying some funky stuff right now with the colors, seeing what happens. I think that's kind of okay. Okay, something's goofy with this though, and I'm not sure what it is, but I'm not too worried about it. The colors are kind of okay. Um, yeah, I think this is good. I think we can vote on one of these to work on till the end of stream. I don't feel like I was super satisfied with today's thumbnails, but we also ranted a lot about various things. So I think it works. Let's slap some color dodge on this though. So how about some overlay? Let's do a green. Maybe there's a bit of blue in here as well. Blue, green. Maybe with a bright punch of yellow, orange. Or something. Hold on, that didn't actually work. Maybe a glow dodge or something. Glow dodge. There we go. Some yellow, orange. Something like that. There. Okay. So there's some colors, and I think we can take these colors and yeah, we can just say that these are the colors for the painting. And then yeah. Okay, there we go. So here are the thumbnails for today. We're gonna vote. Let me close these, or here, let's do this. 8. I'm just gonna blank these out a little bit. There we go. Now I'm going to merge all of my layers. I'm going to select the outside of this little template thingy. And then I'm going to hit delete. There we go. Okay, perfect. Now I'm going to bring up the straw poll, and we will vote, and then I will work on one of these till the end of stream. Also, Zoltan, hope you're doing well today. Thank you so much for the follow. And anyone else who is new here, welcome in. Just a moment while I make a straw poll. I wish I had an automated command to just type in like a... I wish I had like a dashboard feature where I could just be like, insert number of options, 7. And then it would create the poll instantly for me. Vote. Instead of having to manually click 7 options, and then having to click on allow selection of multiple options, and then create poll, and then copy the link, I know, this is so much work. Here is the straw poll. I think that's it. Thank you for the follows, Flav Queen and Mr. Doof. I don't know if I'm saying your name right. Thank you for the follows. Really appreciate it. Oh, I've dropped some frames. That's not good. I hope I'm not lagging. I don't know if that was now or earlier. But if I am lagging right now, you should let me know. If I'm not, then that's fantastic. Anyway, so here is... I said the word again. The word that I was not supposed to mention, I said again. I'll add the command. Or somebody else can. Okay, there's that. So yeah, the straw poll is pinned to the top of the chat. And this is a perfect time to hydrate, sit up straight, stretch, all the stuff. Majar says, I think we all immediately look at 5, but some of the others have promise. Yeah, 5 is pretty clear. Yeah, I actually like 6, I think, more than 5. But 5 has nice colors. Some of them are kind of weird. I don't know. Today was a weird day, I think, when it comes to composition. But I think they all have some promise. 1 and 5 are your favorites? Yeah, I think mine probably 2. Maybe, well, maybe not 1. I don't know. It's hard to say. Hard to say. Okie dokie. 2 could be beautiful. Yeah, I mean, look, I think, without sounding like I'm an egotistical maniac, I think I could turn all of them into something nice. Even the ones that aren't nice at all. Like, I do trust in my ability to make decisions. I don't know how to describe it, but this is like... Imagine you were going to decide whether a shape is a circle or not, right? Your ability to judge isn't going to change from moment to moment. Like, you either know if something's a circle or it's not, right? Like, you're judging based on how smooth the edges are and how accurate it is. So you could take a pile of string that's made into a circle, and you could adjust it to make it look very circular, right? And if you were to mess it up again, you could do that again and again and again, and every time it would be pretty circular, right? Because your ability to judge that isn't changing. And that's how I feel about painting. Like, my ability to judge whether something is or isn't working is kind of the same, like, even if I'm doing a different painting. It might take me a while to get there, but I can get there, and my understanding of things like perspective and color and composition, those aren't changing, right? So I do have some sort of confidence in my ability to get there eventually, even if I don't get there in the thumbnail process. Viampa says the one is the only one I can't see too clearly yet, so I'd love to see the process. Oh yes, I like that way of voting, to be honest. So number 1 is like a big, maybe some sort of cavern or something that has like some weird green stuff in it. I don't know. I think, yeah. I think I will also vote for 1. I like number 1. I think 1 and 6 seem like fun. 6 because there's a lot of variation in stuff. And my vote never wins. You just have bad taste. No, or just good taste. I actually sometimes feel that way, Jake, where my vote, I feel like the ones I vote for never win because I'm always thinking about what I could do with them as opposed to what is already on the page. And so people are typically voting for what they actually like. So sort of like Viampa said, right? With number 1, it may not look the most appealing, but there is something interesting about it, and you're like, "Ooh, I wonder what I could do with that." Right? Like, I wonder where that could be taken. And I personally find that very appealing. But I think when you put it to an audience and there's more than one person voting, I think number 1 is going to be very unlikely to win. Similar to maybe number 3, for example. Well, maybe not. If people know number 3 is underwater, they might vote. Vote for 6, people. This is a threat. No threatening allowed. That is not okay. We do not make threats to chat, except for me. No, I don't even threaten chat. Some streamers like to threaten people and say that they'll ban them or something, but I don't like doing that. Okay, we have just a few more minutes. 2 minutes and 40 seconds of voting. I need to take a sip of drink because I've been talking nonstop for a long time. Josie the Croissant, hello, hello. Slab Queen 5. Yes, so vote in chat. Or, sorry, not in chat. At the top of the straw poll, or at the top of chat, there's a straw poll, and there is the link. You should totally click it and vote. I mean, you don't have to be... I never want to sound too excited about it because other people don't need to be excited about these because right now they're all kind of blobs of color. But we will turn them into stuff, and I'll try to talk through my process of how my decision making as I edit them and change them and kind of self-critique. Because a lot of them, you know, if the perspective's off, I'm going to need to fix that. If the composition's off, I need to fix that. If there's a goal in mind that is unclear, I need to make that clear. So it's kind of a process of self-critiquing, but we have a starting point of something. Might be colors, might be theme, might be composition, might just, yes, could be something. Vote or I'll ban. No, you won't. There's some great blobs of color, though. Thanks. Yeah, they're very color blobby. Hope everyone's doing well today and has a cup of tea or something. Also, if it's really hot, then that sucks. Okay, so currently what one's winning? Let's see. Number 5 is winning. Okay, it looks like we're gonna go with number 5 today. So 5 and 6 are in the lead. Actually, 5 is in the lead, and 6 and 7 are tied for second. Like the color scheme of 5? Yeah, it has something nice. I have a hunch it's going to change so much that it's going to be unrecognizable when it's done. But I think we can maintain the color palette. But I think everything else is going to change. Because when I'm looking at it, I'm thinking about what I like about number 5, and I like that there's that dark spot with the bright lights and the shadows, and then there's the tower thingy with the sort of the bright light coming out of it. And I feel like those could be kind of two contrasting points in the composition. But right now they're both kind of in the center, and they're both kind of the main focal point. And they're not very well balanced. So yeah, I think that's going to change. Okay, number 5 has won. Oh wait, no, it's a tie. What the heck? Did we really just tie 5 and 7? You guys, did you just rig this? Do we have to do a tie-break poll? This is absurd. If anybody wants to break the tie, feel free to vote for 5 or 7 right now. The next vote that gets it, I will go for that one. If somebody hasn't voted and you vote for 5 or 7, that will break the vote. This is my way of breaking the tie. Suspense. I'm waiting. I'm just refreshing. We're seeing the first person. If you have not voted and you want to choose between 5 and 7, vote now because you will break the tie. 5 or 7. Click first one. What I miss? You want to break the tie? Click on the link and vote for number 5 or 7. Right now it's a tie. We need to break the tie. Wait, it can be up to you. Yeah, it can be up to you. But you have to actually vote. It can be up to anyone the first person. If I see that number change, we're going with it. Refreshing. Still tied. Okay, maybe nobody cares. If it has to be between those, I'd say 5. Well, it's somebody. Really, is nobody voting? You guys, do I have to do this myself? Alright. I'm doing it myself. Here we go. Poll. That's not how you do it. Slash. Oh, wait, they're both at 9 now. What happened? I missed it. It went so fast. It went so fast I missed what one won. Okay, hold on. 5. This is ridiculous. This is absolutely absurd. Hold on. Sorry about this. 5 or 7 is going to be the name of the thing. I'm now disregarding the straw poll, and we're going to go 5 or 7 for 2 minutes. There we go. New poll is up. Top of chat. Vote. 5 or 7. You have one job. No, now everybody has a job. I voted for both. Nope, you can only vote for one now at the top of chat. There's a new poll. It's a tie break. Okay, it looks like number 5 is winning by a landslide. Number 5 is crushing it. Sorry, number 7. See, oh my god. Is somebody rigging it? I feel like somebody is like number 7 has this way of like creeping up from behind. Think of the possibilities. 7. Believe. Oh my god, you guys are I swear you're trying to rig it at this. If it ties, I'm voting, by the way. I'm just gonna be the one to pick. And it's 3 more for 7. What is happening? This is stupid. You guys are bad at voting. Just kidding. Just putting this on you. This is all your fault. You aren't good enough at vote. Another tie coming. It might be. But if it ties, you have to do both. Ooh, I could try. No, I don't think my brain has enough cells today. Are we bad or just too good? I don't know. Something. Well, number 7's boring. Number 5 is possibility. Number 5 is an uncut gem, you know? It has... You don't know what it could be. It could be anything. It's unpolished. Number 7... Okay, number 5 won. Whew. That is good, because I didn't want to do number 7. Can you tell from the tone of my voice? Okay. All right, save as a JPEG, a new file name. Goodbye, Starry. So it'll be here next week, and you can always bring back old streams. We'll miss you, SG1. Yeah, totally. Yeah, there is a way to bring back old thumbnails that never made it to re-enter into the vote. In channel points, along with the option to redeem. All right, maybe that option, maybe I took it away. I don't remember. Okay, so now I gotta figure out how the heck to manage this monstrosity. We almost raised his blood pressure. You almost raised it. Yes, I don't know. I don't think it was... I would have rolled with the punches. I would have... Well... I could have just done something different, right? Like I have the ability just to change it. I mean, I could just keep painting on it and change the colors. I could have made it into a different painting. We already raised it because of the tie. Yeah, true. Okay, next. So, this painting. The things I think about. I like this. I like the color here in the shadows. I think it's cool. I think it's sort of a... I don't know what it is, but I feel like there could totally be some architecture here. Some stuff in the shadows. And then you have this little burst of light. So I like that. It's almost like these are little, like an altar or something, or there's, stairs leading up to this place. So that's cool. I also like this thing, but what I don't like is that its position. I think compositionally, this is too dominant alongside that, and I feel like we need to change it. Or so we actually, first I think we need to figure out what this is. So I'm thinking this thing kind of looks like the focal point right now. Paint 7 on top of it. Nah. So this right now could be the focal point. And if we do, I probably want to make it central, kind of, and maybe something leading up to it or down. Why is it giving me Pride and Prejudice vibes? I don't know. We definitely have a problem with everything being on, all the contrast being on the right side or left side if I flip it. And I gotta figure out what I like about it. Also, where do I feel like the eye line wants to be? Because I haven't really established that properly. I mean, kind of here, but it's sort of in the middle of the page. I kind of feel like this is demanding our attention be upward, so I feel like that's what we're going to go with. So what if we lean into that? So what if we take this, I'm just going to move stuff around here for a second. Kind of puzzle piece style. Maybe make this smaller. What if I do this? So kind of positioning these on focal points. I'm going to really focus on this tower up here. This is going to be the main thing, I think. I want the shape to be nice and silhouetted, so I'm getting rid of this noise and stuff back here. Atmospheric perspective. I'm thinking this will still be the ground. Maybe I'll lower it a little bit. I do like this, though. I think this is kind of neat. We have these shapes up here. I kind of think I'm going to make this actually square as opposed to circular. I think square can do a lot. Maybe. It also kind of has the benefit of making this thing, the ground plane's kind of curved, right? So we have like this kind of shape. I don't really know what all this is yet, but I can imagine these shapes back here are sort of curving inward. And so you have like these, it's almost like a curvy line on the bottom and the sides. And I kind of like that. I feel like it makes a very natural focal point. So maybe these things are here. Maybe this is another shadow here. I do like this stuff. Maybe we'll bring something down. I'm just thinking about composition right now. Maybe there's a ground plane. Here, I'm going to move the whole thing down a little bit. Bring the focal point of the top into this top corner. It feels a little festival or a local shopping eatery. Maybe. Maybe. I'm kind of thinking like a giant wall of some sort, almost, but not necessarily a giant wall. It could be a few things. Like, for example, we could have something coming this way. I want to paint stringed lights or glowing lanterns. I want this thumbnail. You want this thumbnail? You could totally have this thumbnail. Here, take a screenshot. Just screenshot it and paint right on top of it or something. It's up to you. Also, I'll even put the thumbnails in Discord if you ever want them. Anyone can paint on top of them or use them if they like random color palettes. I don't really know why you'd want to. You could probably just make your own. But you know, there's nothing wrong with that. Let me open up Discord. Go into my thumbnail archive channel. If you are unfamiliar with that, I do have a thumbnail archive channel. I post all of my thumbnails from every stream there, along with the painting that resulted. And I'm lagging really bad. And I'm dropping frames. Okay, so I definitely lag when there's stuff that requires computer power. I think it's a CPU issue. Test. Am I still here? Oh no. Maybe not. Testing, testing. I don't know if I'm here. I see my frames dropping. Sadly, you're still here. Okay. Unfortunately, I'm. Okay, that's good to know. Uh, I look at them when I miss stream. I'm glad you sent a notification. Oh. But yeah, me trying to save that real quick and post it and upload it, it made my frames drop. So it's definitely an issue with doing things that require compute power or upload something like that. I don't know. I see you. Okay, that's good. Good to know. All right. I keep flipping this, and if you're wondering why I keep flipping it and if it's giving you a headache, the reason is because because that's the reason. No, the reason that I keep flipping it is because I'm trying to sort out composition, and flipping it helps me sort of figure out the balance of it. It helps me figure out sort of where lines lead, sort of an eye line type thing. Helps me figure out if things like perspective are reading well, if things are balanced. Sometimes there's like, I'll tip my whole painting to one side, and this will be a way. Or sorry, my painting will be just naturally skewing to one side, and flipping it will kind of alert me that, oh wow, things are off balance. So that's kind of why I do it. And you also probably notice that I jump around a lot when I paint. That's also for the same reason, is I'm trying to just identify parts of my painting that need help, and then I'll paint on those. Because I'm still very much in the process of identify things that are problem areas and solve stuff that doesn't look right. Thank you for the follow, Crowful. How are you? Hope you're doing well today. Okay. So now I'm gonna just save this again. Hope I don't crash or something. This might. I'm gonna pay attention to my frames. So having some technical difficulties today, but I think it's working. Okay, there we go. So I'm gonna just duplicate this, and I'm just gonna continue on making shapes and trying things. For example, this tall tower thing, I don't know if I like it. I feel like I do like that this shape. How do I do this? Let's do it in red. So this shape, I kind of like that they lead into these things, but there are some things that I think I should be taking into account. For example, foreshortening. Someone mentioned this earlier, right? When do I think about it? Well, if I'm thinking about this object being this wide, it makes no sense that this object, which is further back, is like the same width, right? So realistically, this is going to be a lot of space, so I could actually segment this into multiple things, right? So if this were a house, for example, it could be very short. And having that little overlap can help imply the distance between these. Also, this could be further back. Maybe we'll put the blue back here. Let's see. Do I like this? Kinda not. What else? What else about it? Also, why did I not erase this? Let's get rid of that. I feel like if this is over here, okay, I see a problem. So this shape, there's no form to it right now. If I want this to have a nice form, I feel like we need this. Let's try to do this properly. I feel like this thing here Something like that, maybe, where we get some little shapes here. Maybe I went too far, actually. Maybe I'll bring it back, just very, very crudely moving things around. I'm still kind of in thumbnail stage in some ways, just making big sweeping changes. I'm not really worried about anything, anything accurate or precise right now, because that's not the stage that I'm in. I'm very much in the forest. You know that saying, like, mistaking the forest for the trees, or you can't see the forest for the trees, basically meaning you're too focused on the trees and you don't realize it's actually a forest because you're too hung up on details. I think that's what that saying means. I find that's extremely relevant to painting, right? You do want to paint the big shapes. You want to paint the forest, right? If this is a forest back here, quite literally a forest, actually, could be a mountain range with trees on it. You just paint the shapes and the forms, but you don't actually want to paint each individual tree because that's not where we're at yet. We're not doing detail. We're just trying to figure out the big shapes. So yeah, here, maybe there's also shadows here. Maybe we get some blue down here. We still want green, and I feel like some of this green could be very illuminated, which is good because we have yellow down here. So very green and almost like a neon green. So that could be like this. Maybe this color comes like that. Maybe there's some shapes. I am kind of simplifying the shapes right now, and it might even be less interesting than it was initially. But I think with some smart shape design and adding in interesting shapes and values, I'm pretty sure I can remedy this. Maybe these are literally trees. Right? We were talking about forest for the trees. Maybe I put little groves in here. This can help our brain sort of make sense of it. That looks like Batman. I didn't mean it. This is like the second time I've drawn Batman recently on accident. It's not supposed to be Batman. Okay, and that's could be a forest. Let's go Batman, yeah. Okay, so now let's see. There's underside of this should be in shadow. I think that's good. I do feel like if I were being really precise here, I would want to figure out where our eyeline is, and every object would need to be consistent within that. I guess I could sketch in some of these things over here. So like if here's our eyeline. So I should probably figure out what shape this is. So this is that shape. This is going to be that shape. This could go maybe like that. Maybe this turns the other way, actually. That could be kind of cool. This is like the corner of a wall. And so now that I have an idea of the angles here, okay, this is like a corner wall thing. I don't really know what this little side thing is, but it's kind of cool. And maybe we put, again, I'm drawing the contours here, the perspective lines just here, just for myself, kind of. Ooh, I'm loving this. Oh, thank you. Ooh, drawing a courtyard. Yeah, kind of courtyard thing. Add some gardens. See, it's funny that you guys both said that at the same time, more or less. Mad, thank you. You said you love this. And Siren Knight said that it's a courtyard. It kind of clicks, right? Like, drawing that perspective it still isn't perfect, but it kind of clicks all at the same time. It's like once I decided that this shape was not going that way, and once I decided it was a wall that's coming into this, then it's like, oh, this is like this little corner area, right? And there's this corner thing. It's still kind of confusing how I'm drawing it, but it'll sort itself out, or I'll sort it out. Um, and yeah, it's kind of funny how it just all sort of comes together almost very quick. Now, I don't know if this is quite right. A lot of this is going to be, push my perspective skills, but I'm just going to sort of freehand it, eyeball it. I mean, there's no right or wrong way to draw this, but I do want to make it look clear, and right now it's not. So for example, if I can figure out the slope of this wall, and then the slope of this wall, right, I can then figure out where I want this to go. And I think that's the way I'm going to do it, is basically just from the slope. So this can go that way. And it's not, again, it's not going to be perfect, but it will hopefully look right. I could go even more, but I kind of like, maybe that is good. And this can have that bright edge up here. And so this is sort of sitting on an angle, it looks like. Right, so again, I'm very much drawing in perspective now. I am trying to figure out some of this stuff, right? If these lines are coming down here, right? Now these are coming down here because this is more or less parallel. Which means this and this. And of course, if this is rounded, it doesn't actually need to be perfect in perspective, but anyway, you get the idea. But yeah, so I kind of like that. Yeah, this is kind of a courtyard-looking area. But then there's something here, which is some other magical glowy thing. And how I do this is going to be a whole nother thing. And maybe I can come down here, and there's maybe in all of the shadows, we'll put the blue. Maybe we guide the eye into the scene with some nice green shapes. So I'm just going to use a lasso tool here. So I still haven't figured out what I'm going to do with the composition yet. Or how I'm going to guide the eye in. What is this thing here? Maybe a siege, explosions in the night. Yeah, I don't know if about nighttime. I feel like composition-wise and the lighting doesn't really work for that. But we could make this much more... So this is another thing I do think about. Joe drawing... No, not interior. This is exterior. This is a thing that I think about, though, which is I have a lot of brightness up here, and I could kind of get rid of a lot of that by increasing the scale of the things in the background. And I could actually lower the overall brightness of the image just by adding it like this, and suddenly it could go into like an almost afternoon type thing, right? Where this whole thing is, below the setting sun. Right, because we have these cool mountains or whatever back here. Maybe we even have some other stuff back here. So that's a way to sort of adjust the mood of your painting, is by, if your painting is overwhelmingly getting too bright, you can darken it down, and then it starts to change the mood. So I don't know if I want to go with that. I want a house with a courtyard. That would be fancy. Joe dyslexic art. Am I dyslexic? Probably. No, I don't think I'm dyslexic. I think I am allergic to details and I misread stuff and I don't pay too much attention to things. I sometimes yeah. I'm yeah, I don't think it's dyslexia though. I think I've ruled that one out. I don't know. I should go to a therapist or someone who can diagnose my issues and tell me what's wrong with me because I feel like I I probably have something. I don't know. I have hunches, but I don't like to talk about it on stream and self-diagnose stuff because I think that's not a good way to go about it. But yeah. I want a house. Yeah, I want a house with a courtyard too. Right, not night. Oh, you're good though. Oh, right, not night. What did you say? Explosion on the right. Oh, I see. On the right. Explosion. Oh, like here? Nah. I think the thing about explosions, I've talked about this before. Certain things sort of demand moods for me. Like explosions, for example, you typically have explosions that have bright to them, right? And so you want to contrast them. Sort of like fireworks, right? You don't take a daytime scene like, I want to add fireworks. Like, no, if you want to paint a fireworks scene, make it a nighttime scene or evening scene where you can really show off those fireworks, right? And I think sometimes just adding things into a scene kind of demands a mood change, or if it's going to be the focus. Now, it's one thing if you're doing an illustration and it specifically calls for, like, it's a battle that's raged on for many days and many nights, and this is showing a daytime scene of two characters doing something, but you still want there to be a sense of explosions in the background. Sure, then you can hint at that thing, but that's like an Easter egg, or that's like a little contextual cue, but it's not really that important. Like the explosion wasn't the focus, right? The explosion is sort of just setting the scene. But I don't feel like that's what this painting has, right? There's not really a reason for me to want to put that there. Um, unless the prompt demands it, which at this point we don't have a prompt. We're just kind of going with it, so we paint whenever we want. Also, this thing is not looking right. Let's change the architecture. Let's make this square. It's saving. Explosions in day make yeah, and I think that is fine. And if you want to show that's great. I mean, imagine again if you were hired to do an illustration for yeah, let's say a book series that has wars constantly happening. Sure, you could show a scene of two characters interacting in a courtyard, and behind them there's it's evident that the war's still raging on, but the focus is still on them, right? And maybe you use strategic smoke to guide the eye down to these characters or something so that you can still see the smoke, but it's just showing the focus is still here, right? Right now it's not, but you get the point. So I think that's totally a thing, and that's a good thing to do. Let's see, this goes here, this goes here. Okay, we're gonna get rid of this little ring thing that I made. And we're just gonna extend these. We're gonna extend this. And we're just gonna paint up here. I feel like this should probably... I can add back in that little ring thing. Ah, you like the ring thing? I might add it back in, but I just want to get the construction of this stuff making sense first. With perspective, and here, I'm gonna make a... I should probably set up an actual perspective grid and not just eyeball everything. This is kind of me just eyeballing stuff. I'm kind of mapping it out, but not perfectly. And then I do want shapes and form variations.
And then I guess if this is that one, maybe we'll put some over here as well. These can go way far out. Again, don't need to be perfect. Just in the general direction. Oh crap, that's the wrong layer. There we go. Now I can come in here and also line these up, guidelines a little bit. Okay, now I can turn those off. There, I think that's good. And now, tangent issues. Also got some lighting issues. Like this. What do we do here? Maybe we want to add some shapes in here. This. I'm not sure what that's all about. We could still do the ring. And we could, you know, fill in the gaps and make it right. I'm not sure how we're going to do that. I got to think about it. Let's first focus on shapes. What are you accessing those bars and you eyeballing it? Where are you accessing those bars and a... Wait, what? Where am I accessing those bars? Which bars? These? This is just a paint... This is just a line. This is me holding the paintbrush tool and drawing lines. And yes, I am eyeballing it. Yeah, I was just eyeballing it. I was saying, you know, I know that my eye level's down here for here. This is the thought process that was going through my head. And yeah, I was not doing this precisely. So I know that my eye level is down here. So I didn't draw this line, but I had it in my head. And I took a line that I knew I was pretty happy with, like this one. And I was stopping it in my head somewhere wherever it met this other my eye line, right? So in my head I had this line, and then I said, oh, here, first let's make a new layer so I don't goof something up. Right? So in my head I had this red line, and then I drew this line out and where it would meet, you know, I was trying to line it up with this, and I would just extend it down, and okay, so it would meet here. And then I tried to make everything else match that imaginary line. Obviously, I can't see where it is, so I was just eyeballing it. And so I was just trying to make it match there. And that was just my best guess. And this one, again, I kind of figured this should go off very, very far. And so I just kind of imagined that these go here. This one's a little steeper. Again, I don't know if they actually connect perfectly, but they would connect somewhere over here along the line here. So it was purely eyeballing it. That's what those lines were for. And then once I drew in some guidelines that sort of followed them, right? I drew in, you know, there was that line and that line and that line. Then I just sketched in some additionals, just, you know, just so that I can have them as reference, so that when I turn, you know, that now when I'm just painting, I have some little mini guidelines in here already. But no, there is a better way. There are actual perspective tools in here that you can use. I don't care to be that precise in this. And I think I have a good enough understanding of what's going on that it's, you know, over time I can twiddle with it and fix it. This isn't perfect, of course. Also, these things aren't perfectly square, or they're not supposed to be. So they're supposed to be a little bit triangular, a little bottom heavy. Hey again from London. Painting looks cool. Hey, Alex Thompson. Hello, hello. Hope you're doing well. I just love your brush. It's a joy to paint with. No. Are you using it? It's funny. I like it. It's good for scribbling. I'm a scribbler. That's what I do. Okay. This painting has a problem. First of all, we have the rule of going through, like, the allergic lines where we're just avoiding this thing. So we should probably overlap because that would look better. So let's carve out some shapes like that. that. I think this will look better. Maybe we can still put some lines up here. Stuff sticking up, or what have you. Could be anything. I'm just gonna put little textures up there just so that I can think about it as things being up here. Okay, so there's that. I love scribbling also. Yeah, I mean, it's funny. It very much is scribbling. It's just brushing in big shapes. And because I'm only thinking about the big shapes, right, I'm just like, oh, I want some dark stuff in this area. So I literally just scribble it in. And then at another point, I'm like, oh, well, this line doesn't need to be here. So I take that green and I just scribble it out. And I refine a little bit. I'm like, oh, well, I want some more bright whatever. And so I scribble that. Oh, this color's too bright, so I scribble on something a little lighter. It is very much scribbling. It's crazy how much it changed from the thumbnail. Yeah, no, I knew it would change a lot because I wasn't sure what the thumbnail was. But yeah. And then this will be... Again, I feel like this is like a shop or something. Or maybe there's actual architecture here. Does kind of have this triangular thing. So maybe down here again, I'm kind of, so again here with perspective, I'm sort of eyeballing these lines. I figure this one is sitting, this tower is sort of parallel, or this face is parallel to this face, right? So I'm using these lines sort of going to the same direction, even if it's not perfect. I can just sort of eyeball it, right? This is going down that way, like that way, and these are going down that way. They're kind of similar. Obviously, they're not at the same height, but they're parallel. Right? And then maybe here there's little statues or something. Maybe there's a bird with wings. Maybe it's a dragon. Old dragon tail. I don't know. And maybe there's something else over here. Again, we'll drag again. So now in perspective, right? This, if I want something to be the same height, I need to follow the line that I roughly made. Again, it's not perfect, but it's going to be roughly that line, right? Probably. Maybe not. Actually, probably not that one. I don't know. It's going to be this one probably. So, you know, somewhere down here, right? So this should be up tall like that, probably. I don't know. Roughly. You love the little dragon? Yeah, a little gargoyle dragon thingy. You know, I just want to sketch in the shape of these a little bit, or just some implied architecture. Maybe there's some horizontal patterns in here. Again, there's a little bit of foreshortening, right? As these things are probably a little closer because they're a little farther away than, say, these. I don't think they need to be perfect. Joe got 2 perspective going. Yeah, I mean, there's a lot, right? So this, technically, this was not going to be perfectly flat with this. This was actually going to be different. Yeah, it is 2-point perspective, but it's a little wonky. I'll admit, this is not perfect. This is definitely not a perfect perspective. And of course, I have weird angles like this that are supposed to be at an angle. Technically, it's kind of is 3-point, right? There's a little bit of a 3-point going on, right? Technically, if it was going to be more 3-point, I would make this go up like this, right, at this angle, so that everything kind of leads up, which is honestly not a bad idea because I'm kind of already doing it, so I might as well just sketch that in there, right? If I want to imply some lines, I could just apply them up. It's not a perfect, again, perspective is pretty weak in this because I'm not doing it perfect. I'm not using lots of grids. I'm just kind of eyeballing it. But I do try to keep in mind when I draw these lines to converge them towards common points if they're parallel to other planes. Good, how have you been? I've been good. Oh, Jim says, hey there, Siren. How have you been? Oh, I see. You're not talking to me. Okay, then. Hope your day has been well. Hey, not so fat Matt. My day has been going well. I'm a little bit brain fried probably, and was stressing out a little bit because I know my sleep schedule is going to get all goofed up because it's a holiday today, and I work. Well, I normally would have worked this morning, but instead I work tomorrow morning. We are always talking to you. I don't agree with that, but I thank you. Good to know. But yeah, Jim, how are you? Hope you're doing well. And I don't know if you were actually asking, but I am doing well. My day's going pretty good so far. Sky whales indeed. I don't think there's going to be sky whales here, but maybe. Oh, I do think there should be some trees or something up here. And again, these trees, technically, if they're straight up and down, they should follow. If I have a 3-point perspective, they should lean into it. Just a little bit, right? Everything is going to follow that perspective. Well, not everything. I mean, technically, if I can rotate objects that don't follow that, but I could have a tree falling over or something and it would, be at a different angle. And that's fine. But, if things are straight up and down, they should, reflect that. If I have a distortion going on in my painting. I really like what you've done here. Thanks. I appreciate it. I feel like brain friedness. I'm getting started for the day. Oof, brain fried at the start of the day. That's when you're supposed to be rested and not brain fried. It happens. I get it. Also, let's put a little bit of vignette over here, so a little darker corner. So that blue can be a little dark. Also, maybe even over here, just to help guide the eye into the page. So maybe I'll put some clouds back here. And these clouds, the reason I'm putting them is because it's darker in this corner. That way you don't have like high contrast right there. You can kind of blendy. Something like that could work. And then maybe there's these little background lines that guide your eye into the painting. These little cliffs or whatever, if this is like a cliff base. Right, same thing here. Little texture strokes, painting with the composition. These are things that I try to think about. I need his background intuition. I don't think it's... let's see. Oh, I meant getting started with my word. But yeah, sorry about that. We've got a worm's eye view going on here. Yeah, a little bit of a worm's eye view. I wouldn't even call it intuition. I don't think it's so much intuition. And I'm taking things apart when they... Wait. I need the intuition as well, and then taking things apart when they aren't working. See, I don't know if it's intuition. It's funny. We were talking earlier. We had a whole discussion about like saying words unintentionally, and sort of constantly like how it can be hard to know that you're saying a word, like if it's a filler word on stream. So, for example, I say the word anyways. I'll be like, anyway, and then I'll try to get back to topic, right? So it's sort of my transition from... But anyway, the point is... I just said it right there. The point is that I will say this word without thinking about it. But by trying to catch yourself, right? Reminding yourself, almost like a little trigger. It's like, oh, I've just ended a rant. Let me slow down, remind myself, and then I can intentionally choose a different word, right? So it's hard because you have these habits or whatever, but over time you can work at it. And this is kind of how it is with perspective. So anytime you're drawing, say, a plane, or anytime you're drawing a flat wall, right? A flat wall. Here's a wall, it's flat, right? It's not curvy, right? You're not drawing a curvy wall, right? You're drawing a flat wall. So anytime you're drawing a flat wall, ask yourself, just try to make them... I mean, you're not going to be able to get it every time, right? I can't get it every time. But anytime you do that, ask yourself, have I already drawn any other flat walls in the scene that are this, like, similar? Because if so, like this one, if this is parallel, if this wall is parallel to this one, they should have the same perspective, right? So you have to remind yourself, oh, hey, here's a quick check. So if I'm drawing this, for example, when I was drawing this thing, this roof, this edge, oh, wait, if this is my wall, have I drawn any parallel walls? They're not parallel. No, my point is if they all are parallel. No, they were parallel, right? So this could be parallel. So if this is parallel to, say, this wall, they're at different, right? Sorry, parallel, the plane, not the object. Sorry, not the object, the plane, right? So here, let me demonstrate. If I were to draw an object, let me make a new layer. If I were to draw an object here, right, and this is supposed to be vertical, and then I draw this object. Now this isn't technically. Technically this is at a slope. However, the top of this plane is supposed to be parallel, right? But let's just pretend that this is up and down. My point is, if I were to run this one's far away, right? So I could use a small brush or something. But if I were to extend this all the way down, right, and maybe even up and down, and then over here and over here, right? These could eventually be parallel. Like these could be parallel planes, right? Technically, this plane is farther back and higher up, right? And this plane is closer and more to us. But the plane that they're on in geometric space, they could be represented as parallels, right? Now, I'm not saying they are, but if they are pretty close, it's suddenly you can hint at it like, oh, these could be, maybe I should make these, connect to the same spots, right? And here's my eye line. So they're going to be somewhere connecting over there. I mean, I am eyeballing it all, but the point is that those are like the little cues, and starting to think about which, and it's not even always which planes. It can also be which lines. So for example, this plane is tilted, right? Like if here's the ground and I draw a vertical, like a plumb line, right? This plane is tilted, right? The whole thing is tilted. But this top line is still parallel to a plane that's going this way, right? So this plane isn't parallel, but these lines are parallel, right? So even though this plane, technically, if I wanted to make a parallel plane, right, I'd have to draw down, draw over, and then this would be the parallel plane. But but this big line at the bottom, the purple one right here, that purple line still is parallel, even though the plane isn't parallel, right? Because it's like if I were to draw, or if I were to draw a plane going straight up, right? Obviously, these two planes aren't parallel, right? But they're sharing that same line, right? They're sharing this common line. So sometimes that's how I think of it. Ruin says, came here for art, got to get geometry lessons. Yeah. But anyway, my whole point was that's what I mean when I say those lines are parallel. They shared that parallel, a line that more or less converges to the same point. It wasn't skewed, right? If this line and then I had a different line going, this direction, these lines wouldn't be parallel. If this one's representing, a line like this, right, and this one's representing a line like this or something, like these are no longer parallel lines because this one's this one's going off that direction, this one's going off that direction, like nothing about them's parallel, right? Because that was just an arbitrary line. Anyway, so I think it's more that they're, maybe parallel's not the right word. I think parallel's not the right word. I don't know what, is there a word in math that describes, like, for example, if you had a 3D box, right? Here's just a box in 3D. If you were to pierce a nail directly into this box, right? Perfectly perpendicular to this plane, right? So it, the green is going to be perpendicular to this zigzaggy plane, right? Or to this, sorry, not zigzaggy. But if I wanted to draw something perpendicular to this purple plane, right? But also draw one over here perpendicular, are these, I guess they're still parallel, right?
no matter where this is, if it's perpendicular to this plane, it's still parallel. It's just not parallel. Yeah, I guess it still is, right? It still is parallel. And that's the point I'm making, right? It might be way down here. It's still parallel. It's just parallel among different axes, right? It's not like if I took a thing and put it in at a different angle, right? This is no longer parallel if it went through the box and came out this side. But if they're going in at the same angle, right, and they go all the way through and they come out the other end of the box, like they're parallel. They're just not. So that's what I meant by parallel. Even though it doesn't look like it because one was far away and up high and one was way down low. Yeah, exactly. Something like that, except that's on a curved surface. But yeah, basically the point is that the as long as the surface is flat and you have a bunch of things, a lot of parallel talk going on. Yeah, so I was just trying to explain my thought process and like when I'm drawing random stuff. Granted, I am eyeballing it all, so it's not totally accurate. But like when I'm drawing this line, how I might imagine a line back here to sort of line it up to. Like I want to keep it going to the kind of the same place because these in my head these lines are more or less parallel. They're going in the same cardinal direction, even though this one is part of an angled wall and this one is part of a horizontal wall. The top edge is still parallel. Anyway, that was my point, but I don't know if I made it very well. But yeah. Anyway, how are you? Orvi, hope you're doing well today. Also, if anyone's new here, I apologize for the random talk of stuff, even if it's also fun. It's also hard to demonstrate when I'm drawing like this because I know that this drawing is not super accurate. Like I'm not using a grid. I'm just kind of explaining stuff, kind of drawing it out a little bit, but it's mostly eyeballed. And so I think sometimes my examples aren't very clear because the example that I'm showing is just a little bit off because I don't have that precision. Anyway, let's oh, I said that word again. Let's add some foliage down here. Something. I'm gonna make foliage a little round. Something like that. Just blobbing in some shapes. But yeah, hope you're doing well, Orvi, and anyone else. I'm not ending stream yet. Probably another 20 minutes, but we are getting to the point where my brain starts to slow down and I start to just kind of start doodling as opposed to trying to talk about what I'm doing. But if you do have any questions, feel free to ask. Actually, the talk was very useful. Yeah, well, I think it's hard because I don't know how early on you were here, but so much of it is like you almost have to set up little trigger warnings, not trigger warnings. You have to set up little like cues to like, oh, you better check yourself. Like, and one of those is anytime I draw a flat plane, right? And this is like this can get super nuanced. Like, what is a flat plane? Well, okay, let's think about it. Maybe you have a window, right? Okay, well here's a window, right? You draw it. Right, here's your window. Even this thing, right? If you make the windowsill go backwards, this is a flat plane, right? Now you have a flat plane here. That's gonna go down, and then maybe it comes out this way, and now this is a flat plane. Hold on, but this has to now follow the other window plane, right? And then so you have these that need to follow the right perspective. And then if I make this one bump out again or something, right? This needs to follow the same perspective as this because these are parallel. So even little tiny things like, or on the bottom of the windowsill, right? If I'm these little bars or whatever, this line right here on the edge in red, like that needs to be in perspective, right? Because that's now an edge of a flat parallel plane. And I think sometimes it's hard to remember that these little insignificant things, right? It's not like it's the big one, right? It wasn't the big shape, it was the little tiny thing. Those things can suddenly start mattering. And every little everything is just like, if you make it up of boxes, it's, I don't know. I think it can be really hard to remind yourself constantly that, oh, I need to make sure this lines up with the right stuff. Or if you're drawing a random object up here, is there something in the scene that it kind of corresponds to? It might not, but it will always correspond to your eye line, though, which is somewhere down here for me. And also, somebody said worm's eye view. I don't think this is a worm's eye view. I think this is here, like this is the size of a person, right? Eye level, their head height. So yeah, I don't think this is a worm's eye view. This is just a very big building, right? Because if this is like the entrance to something, it's just a very big entrance. Maybe I draw a little bit of a thing here. A seriously tall worm's eye view. A very big worm. Oh god, that's terrifying to think about. They're just huge worms in this painting. Oh, that should not be there. This should be back here. There. Also, if you're at eye level, right? If here's eye level in the painting, and you're the same height as all the people in the painting, they should have their heads where your head is, which is at eye level. A human-sized worm, yeah. Just gonna erase that. Yeah, today we've been ranting, or I've been ranting a lot about perspective, but I like it. I'm a perspective fan. But I don't really talk about it. This is one of the few streams that I do talk about. I almost never talk about perspective in this amount, but I contribute I blame Stephen Travers on YouTube. Been watching some of his stuff, and I felt he had a interesting way of explaining some perspective, because he explains it from a drawing, like life drawing perspective, which is not what I'm doing, right? I'm very much inventing it. So the traditional way of explaining perspective really related to me, whereas for him, it never related to him, because he's drawing stuff from out in the world where not everything is perfectly parallel. You're not you're not drawing a single building. You might be drawing many buildings with many vanishing points. And so he had to understand it differently. And I felt like him explaining it made me realize where some people might get hung up on, especially if you're trying to draw. Everyone says, oh, draw from references, which they're right, draw from references. But if you're doing that, suddenly all that perspective stuff that you learned in school probably isn't helping you. By that logic, a bird eye view can be a giant worm eye view. Yeah, totally. It's a giant worm. And that would be a worm's, or a flying worm could be a worm's eye view. I never talked about the demeanor of the worm. He could be humorously large as well. True. Yes, I am using Clip Studio Paint. Yep. Clip Studio Paint. Also, I think this wall is looking not... I don't think we're getting the sense that this is on an angle. Let's try to remedy that a little bit by painting along the perspective line here. But yeah, I am using Clip Studio Paint. Nope, it's all MS Paint. So I actually looked into MS Paint the other day because somebody was like, you should do an MS Paint stream. And I was thinking about it. If there is a command for the eyedropper tool, I am up for it. If there is not a command for the eyedropper tool, I am not up for it, because I don't want to not have to use hotkeys. But I think oh crap, did I just crash? Okay, I'm still here. And I think there is a command. I think it might be K or something. So I am actually up for I don't think it would change too much, to be honest. I think I could do an okay painting in MS Paint as long as there's an eyedropper tool, because blending and stuff is... Because I'm only using one brush. I don't know. I don't think it'll be that bad. Procreate is elite. Procreate, I hear, is good. Trying to paint with the... Maybe this should be more green. Maybe we want more foliage up here. I mean, I don't want to do a lot of detail, but I am just kind of trying to figure stuff out here. Maybe there's little... Oh, I know. These little things can totally be little ponds. Maybe this one's going behind this person. Like that. And then this one can go here. Maybe this is a little pond up here. I mean, I've kind of already drawn these ponds, but... I think this will help. And this, of course, is darker in the foreground. Something like that. And then I'm just going to flip the inverse and start painting some of this grass. There. That's kind of okay. A little bit of a pond. A river. There's an eyedropper tool, and yeah, they really updated MS Paint. It's not a joke program. It used to be. I mean, it still seemed pretty terrible. I don't know. Maybe I don't have the newest version. But it still seemed pretty terrible, and I couldn't find a place to edit hotkeys or see. Eyedropper tool. So I use Alt in eyedropper tool for the eyedropper tool in Clip Studio, right? So if I want to, here, if I have a bunch of random colors, right? If I want to pick red, I just hit Alt and select red. If I want to pick green, I go green, blue, green, right? Like I can just pick colors extremely fast, and I can start painting with them, right? It's very, very easy. Yeah, just by holding Alt, it's like it's not a real, it doesn't actually switch to the tool. I think technically I is eyedropper tool, right? So if I hit I, notice how it changes. Now my hand's off of it. Notice how it actually changed the tool, and if I hit B, it goes back to brush. When I hit Alt, it doesn't actually change the tool, right? Notice how it stays on the brush down here. So when I'm hitting Alt, it's just change. It's a quick hotkey where it just very, very quickly will pick the color, and if I let go of it, it goes back to whatever tool I was on. Right? If I'm on the blend brush, right now I'm on the blend brush. If I hit Alt, it color picks. If I go back, it goes right back to the blend brush. So Alt is like is an intermediate thing where it's only switching to that tool so long as I'm holding it down. So that's how I actually never go to the actual tool, which is I. I almost never use the real eyedropper tool. Do you guys think is a better software to use, or is it a personal choice? I think it's pretty much entirely personal choice. So insofar as your process and the things you like to do is a personal choice, there are, if you do a ton of color editing, sure, Photoshop is better than Clip Studio. Why? Well, because Clip Studio, as I change colors, here I'll demonstrate right here. As I change, if I go to edit tonal correction, and let's say I do a hue saturation or something, it doesn't, as I move this slider, you don't see anything, right? You only see something as I let go, right? If I click and let go, now you see the change. This is not as easy to get precise colors just because you don't get the, right? It's a little harder to be precise when you don't get a real-time update. Photoshop does everything real-time, right? If you want to tweak the knobs, you can see every single thing that you do, and it just makes it a lot smoother, a lot easier. You can really get those fine-tuned things. It's a little harder, I feel like, in Clip Studio. Also, I think Photoshop just has some better tools for it. It's just better optimized. But if you're just mostly painting, right? Brush, you have a simple brush, you have a couple layers, you're painting, you do line art, overlay layers, all that. I don't think one program's better than the other. I think Krita as a free software is just as good as Clip Studio for most things, and is just as good as Photoshop for most things, right? If you want to be, once you start sort of working with one program, or really, really finding a way to work that is, maybe you want to explore tools, I think it's good to try Photoshop, get the 1 month free trial version or whatever, and mess around with it. See if there's maybe a workflow that you like that is unique to that program. There's definitely going to be things you can do in some that you can't do in others. I mean, even take the time lapse feature of Clip Studio Paint, right? Photoshop doesn't have that. If you want to throw up quick time lapses on YouTube or something, you might want to do Clip Studio, or maybe you want to do Krita because you actually like their version better, right? They're all very different, but they kind of do the same thing. So I think most of it does come down to preferences. It's kind of my take on sort of, what tablet are you using. I don't think it really matters. Yeah, Medibang or GIMP or any of those. I don't know. I haven't actually played with them all. I don't think it matters. I think what is going to make you be able to paint nice looking stuff is your ability to paint nice looking stuff, right? Like, do you know your fundamentals? Do you understand composition? Right? That's going to be far more important. And this kind of, I mentioned this a lot on stream because I think it comes up all the time in art. To me, it's one of those, like, the 95% issues versus the 5%. Does it matter what program you use? Sure, but that's like the 5%, right? It's not a big portion. You're going to get much more bang for your buck by worrying about your skills, right? You can get 95% of the way just by having skills, and it doesn't matter what program you're using. There's so many little issues in art, like the tools you're using, or your very specific process, or your posture when you paint. Like, sure, some of these matter. What hotkeys do you use? Sure, maybe they matter in like the extreme ends, but it's not going to make an overall impact that's even worth worrying about unless you're already like super duper pro. You know what I mean? It'd be like I remember there was a back is Star competitive StarCraft still a thing, I assume? I don't know. I don't follow it. But there was this, I remember there was like some StarCraft player who, he had really funky hotkeys, and everybody was trying, not everybody, but a lot of people were trying to change their hotkeys to his hotkeys because they were like, surely it's the hotkeys that's making him good. It's not his knowledge and skill at the game. And they were so focused on trying to tweak their buttons to be the same as his. I'm like, oh my God, you guys are idiots. Like, it's not, that's like such a tiny little issue. Like, sure, did he optimize it for something? Maybe, but it's like, that's like a 0.01% issue. It doesn't change the overall effect of his gameplay for any noticeable amount for any reasonable person. Like, you're not going to get better by doing that. Like, just practice. And that's how I feel about art. Is for most things, there's a lot of things people like to focus on that don't matter that much. Kind of like brushes, which, I do like. Yeah, for him, he's making like 3 times or 10 times the amount of clicks for all the other players. Basilisk, welcome Raiders. Welcome Raiders. Basilisk, how are you doing? Hope you're doing well today. Rolling in with the raid. Hey Skittle, welcome back in. Joe, perspective or gesture? What do you mean? Why one? Why not both? If you're talking, percentage, I don't know. I mean, gesture seems to be people only talk about it in relation to characters, but if you want to go bigger, it's almost composition. So, I mean, both are super important. I think perspective, I think, is probably more fundamental. Probably. I mean, I think gesture is harder. I think the idea of composition and gesture, especially if you start, getting away from characters, I think gesture is harder to understand. And I think composition, part of part of composition is perspective, right? Part of identifying the gesture of a character is to understand their position in space, right? Perspective, in other words. So I think perspective is a little bit more fundamental because it affects the other things. Whereas I don't think the other way doesn't go. Right, the arrow only goes one way. I feel like, and it goes out from perspective. Right, perspective affects other stuff. The other stuff doesn't affect. I mean, that's actually not true. I mean, there are elements of composition that can make you decide to use one perspective over the other. Right, if you want to show that a building is really imposing or a character is really tall. Right, suddenly now you're thinking about story and composition, and you're thinking, how do I show this character? So now you have to understand how do you draw that perspective, right? So in that sense, they're both important, but I still think perspective is probably better to do first. It's also a little bit more of a hard skill. Hard as in it's hard and soft, not hard and easy. It's like a, there's a lot of opinion in composition, right? There's not necessarily one right way, whereas perspective is more like math. But there's a little bit more rules to it. So I think perspective's the better one to focus on first. But again, you can do them alongside. I mean, I think of art skills, not to get away from painting too much, but I am starting to wrap up stream. Leary Melcy, thanks, or Leary Mills, thanks for the follow. Also, Basilisk, if you know the drill, if you want to share what you were working on during stream, please do. Drop a link. You know the drill. But yeah, I tend to think of art skills like, I know it's kind of a silly meme or whatever, but like thinking of like a character stat sheet, right? You have all these different things. I don't think you can just, if this is perspective, I don't think you can just be like, oh, I'm going to master perspective first, right? And maybe these are all the same. And then I'm going to master, composition. And then I'm going to master the, right? You can't just go down the list. You have to, they're all intertangled, right? So you have to raise all of them at once, right? So maybe you'll do a little bit of this one, and then you'll go over here and raise some of that, and then that, and then that, right? You touch on all of them, and then you go back. Then you're like, okay, now I'm going to work on this one, and then that one. That's a terrible color. Okay, and then here, and then you level them all up a little bit. And then you might go back, and you're like, okay, well, now I'm going to do this one, and that one, and that one, and that one, and that one, right? And you kind of grow them all at the same time. I don't think you just focus on one, because there's a lot of them rely on other things, right? It's very hard to focus on composition without some understanding of perspective. It's very hard to focus on values without understanding of shapes. And you might have one that you're better at, right? You might sort of lean into perspective because maybe you take to it really well, or maybe you lean into values because you take to it really well. So yeah, maybe it's a little higher, but there's still, I don't think you can just go watch all the videos on perspective and be a master and understand how perspective also relates to composition when you don't understand composition. Only challenge to that is it's okay not to master and just be like, hey, is this as good as I want it to be? Yeah, I mean, intent's always going to be that underlying thing, right? Not everybody wants to be a pro. Not everybody wants to be a Kim Jong-gi. Not everybody wants to work in entertainment stuff, right? like you don't. Not everybody wants to be an illustrator for their career. Yeah, I mean, obviously within, technically, if you just want to do, I mean, yeah, so like think of like your Sunday morning cartoons, right? You technically don't even need to work on perspective, right? Just focus on storytelling and sure gesture and simple, I mean, I still think perspective's good. Sabru, thanks for the follow. But I mean, there are instances where yeah, your needs are going to be different than mine, but I think in general, don't try to just focus on one of the things at a time. Sort of build up, maybe today or maybe for the next week you focus on perspective, and then you start, just do some storytelling stuff, maybe doodle around with a comic idea or something and focus on telling stories with your characters and make them in silly poses and, being expressive and getting the gestures down. Then maybe you go back to exploring interesting compositions. And you just kind of bounce around all these things and just touch on them. Like you don't have to, it's a lifetime pursuit. I mean, I don't think I don't think you're ever gonna be so good at composition if you've never paid attention to perspective, because part of perspective relates to composition. So yeah, anyway, that's a whole thing. And yeah, speaking of Kim Jung-gi, right? Like there was a video on visual libraries, right? Yeah, Kim Jung-gi's a good example of someone who has such a good visual library. That's another thing. You can't just neglect learning how things look in real life. Like, yeah, go watch stuff, go look at things, go observe and draw from life or whatever, from books or something, you know? And so yeah, you can't just binge one thing, right? That's why diversifying is important because they do overlap. Anyway, that's a whole thing. Okay, here is the thing I finished today. Let's take a look. Ooh, Gunner, I love this. I love the roboticness. Here is the other thing I worked on. Oh, this is, oh my gosh, that looks like a nightmare to draw. Okay, here, I'm gonna share this. So this is Eye of the Basilisk's art. Here is their character, or a character. I don't know if it's theirs or not, but it's for their D&D group. I think they said it was for a D&D, or somebody in their D&D group. And then this is another thing they drew, which is adorable. This is so cute, by the way. A dragon just sleeping on the dirty laundry, or maybe clean laundry that's just not folded. I don't know. This is so cute. This looks extremely hard to draw. And can I just say, you did a really good job with this? Like, I'm pretty sure the detail, like, so I always talk about how I'm not a detail-oriented person, but I'm pretty sure even in this situation, the detail part of my brain would be like, oh, this is a pant. I need to make it look like pants. Oh, this is a sock. It better look like a sock. And here you have just like a pile of clothing. And some of it I can tell what it is, but it doesn't matter because it looks like a pile of clothing and it's not about the individuals, right? Like the forest for the trees example again. This is such a good, this is wonderful. I love it. That looks really hard. Okay, I'm impressed. Hello, Mastimo. How's it going? The dragon has a hoard of laundry. It's great. Okay, I really should end stream here soon. I'm slowing down, not thinking very clear. But I appreciate all of you coming to my TED Talk. My rant about perspective. No, I have been wanting to sort of push myself in perspective a little bit. Um, because I feel like it's one of those things that I understand, but I always just skimp on during stream because I'm not to the point where I've drilled it into my brain to become sort of intuitive. It's very much not intuitive right now. I mean, well, some of it is actually. That's not true. A lot of it is intuitive. So I don't think I like this. So let's lower this. Make this come above the. We're just going to change the line of this a bit. That work? Or we could go the other way and go. So I'm just trying to fix composition right here. I feel like I want this shape to be a little lower. Maybe. This is also a weird tangent. Kinda. It wasn't really a tangent, but it almost looked like it, which is confusing. It's going all right. I just got out of work, says Massimo, and found out I have been assigned a job as a researcher for the company's diversity. So suddenly I have a fair amount on my plate. Oh, interesting. I don't know anything about that, but that sounds like something. Hopefully it's fun. Actually, I don't think I like that. I'm gonna erase all that. We're just gonna stick with what we had. I do feel like there's some weird convergence here, like this shape leading into this corner, leading into that. I feel like that's a weird angle. I'm wondering if I can't... Maybe I make this go down here, and then like stair-stepping. No, that's gonna be even more weird.
I gotta think about this. Maybe this will be for another day. Yeah, this painting has a lot of issues. Okay, let's see. Nush Arts is gonna leave my work in progress like it is tonight and continue and go recover some sleep soon. Oh, nice. Did you share it, or would you like to share it? Also, Mad shared. Uh-oh. Sorry, Mad. Mads, you linked the thing wrong. Hold on. Let me go to Discord and see. Oh, you didn't link it in my Discord. Or maybe you did. No. Yeah, so you didn't do a direct link, Mads, to the art. You linked it to the Discord server, which I guess I can click on. I don't know if that even works. I don't know. It might be trying to invite me to your server. Yeah, no, I'm not going to open it in browser. I don't even think I'm signed in. So I can't really click that here. Ooh, this is good. I like this. Nice. I like it. This is cool. I like how you took the you have the little 3D models down there. That's great. Very nice. It should be in sketches. Okay, hold on, let me take a look. Sketches. If anyone wants to join Discord, I do have a Discord. Discord. There we go. That's mine. You can join it. Dang, there's so much good work in here. Oh, Mads, the bird wing sketches. Nice. Dang. Ooh, I really like those. That's nice. You got the one detailed wing, and then you have them all together as a full wing. Or sorry, you have the one feather and then the full wing. That's really nice. I like that a lot. Ooh, Vana, I like yours too. Ooh, yeah, Vana, it looks, I don't know if you're still here, but it looks like you're painting with the big, like you're obviously painting with that one brush that I'm using. It looks like your brush size might be a little bigger than mine when you're painting. I think you're using like relative to your canvas, you're going quite large, which is fine, obviously. Everybody uses stuff differently. But it's funny to see how different people use different stuff. Okay, so for this, I should just sketch in some things, but maybe I'll trying to keep in perspective, just blobbing in shapes. But yeah, I should end here. Let's find somebody to raid. I feel like at this point I'm not making any progress. And without having like a big long rant to go on to, which would just prolong stream, I should probably find somebody to raid. But I'm happy with this. I think this is not a bad one-day painting. I don't, obviously we would need to detail or add a lot of details, keep on painting it, figure out what we want to do, and but I think it's nice. I think it's a good start. I don't think I will continue working on it. I might though. But for sure, next Thursday, I'll be working on something else. I may work on this. I don't know. This is a cool painting. But yeah, so next Thursday, I'll do more environment painting. Same thing as today. I'll start out with a whole bunch of thumbnails, just like today. We will take one of them, like this one, and scale it up and start painting on it. So we went from here to here. Obviously, it changed a lot, as you can see. I'll flip it so it's the same orientation. So yeah, this is the progress we made today. So we started with a little sketch, and we turned it into something. They look so different, but I had a hunch that was going to happen because I didn't like the composition here. I thought it was just weird. There was two dominating things. They were both on the left, so I made one smaller and one larger. Sort of changed the perspective a little. I think it's better now. All right, we're going to find somebody to raid. Let's go to Twitch. Does anybody have any suggestions to raid? Who does everybody like watching? I think we could raid Chlor. Chlor would be a good person to raid. If you don't know Chlor, she does environments also. She's great. I think that's about all that needs to be said. Oh, wait, okay. She's painting a very large tree right now. But yeah, Chlor is not as painterly as me. She does a lot more shapes and gradients and soft soft gradients and a lot of like I feel like Chlor leans into
digital tools a little bit more than I do, although I do love my color dodge. So she has a lot more hard edge stuff, and it's absolutely beautiful. I feel like she is fantastic at capturing colors and moods, and it's almost crazy how efficiently she works. But yeah, it's pretty cool. So let's raid Chlor. Also, it's a good spot to raid and run for me because we go over there a lot, and I need food, so it'll work out. So yeah, thank you all for being here. I really appreciate it. I also have socials if you want to follow me anywhere else. I do have a YouTube, although technically you're going to have to find it because that's not really the link. That's the link to the main channel, but I have a VOD channel with all the... Anyway. I also have, I also have a Patreon if you want to support me further. Akara, which is a new app thing. Anyway, there's my socials. Yeah, that's them. And let's see, what else? We have a raid call if you'd like to copy paste the raid call to spam Chlor with a little bit. And yeah, hope you all have a good day. Be well, take care of yourselves, hydrate, save your art, stretch, take a walk, do all that kind of thing. Anyway, see you all. Yes, thank you for being here. I really appreciate it. See you.